Target stock is down 15%. Combined, Target and Bud Light have lost around $28 billion in market share. And this really does matter because it seems like the tides are turning in the culture war. There's an article from New York Mag where these leftists are shocked to find that conservatives and the right were actually able to pull off a boycott and actually set a market shift. But now we're seeing more companies. Chick-fil-A hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion VP. So this stuff is spreading. Plus, we got a baseball player from the Blue Jays bending the knee and engaging a struggle session because he supported the Target boycott. We got to talk about this stuff. We've got a lot of news, and I think the big story here is that last week, CBS, I believe it was, reported that there were bomb threats at various Target locations. Without verifying, they posted a screenshot of an email that was purportedly sent to us at timcast.com. We never received that email. That's fake news. So I don't know where they got the email. I don't know if it was a spoof or a hoax or what. However, we did receive similar emails, but not the one they posted. So I think it's obviously some kind of spoof. I am mildly perturbed they did not reach out to us and say, hey, did you receive this? Your email's on this. So I'm assuming someone must have sent them a screenshot of a fake email that they then posted saying like, oh, look, it's real or something without checking. And then a bunch of other outlets posted the same thing. TMZ posted the same thing. So we're going to break this down and go over what's really going on. But there were several Target locations evacuated. This stuff's getting pretty spicy. And I think when you look at this baseball player apologizing and saying he will be re-educated, you need to understand just how deeply entrenched we are. Go read 1984 or any one of these books. We're at the point of re-education. We've been here for some time. So we need to address it, especially when Chick-fil-A is doing this stuff. There is a lot of other news, too. We were originally going to lead with Tara Reid, Joe Biden's accuser. She claimed that he assaulted her, sexually assaulted her. She's fled to Russia. Now, The Guardian reports she's defected. That's an interesting story. And then, of course, World War III is in the news today because this morning Moscow suffered multiple drone attacks on civilian targets. So we'll definitely get into all that. But I do think that we should focus on, I was trying to figure out what I thought was the bigger story. But I think American cultural breakdown. We have the elections coming up. You've got Trump, you got DeSantis. We should be focusing on our cultural issues in this episode, but we will absolutely get into all the war stuff. Before we get started, my friends, if you want to support companies that don't hate you, go to castbrew.com and buy this. Cast Brew Coffee, Appalachian Nights. We got Rise with Roberto Jr. With every purchase of Rise with Roberto Jr., you get a picture of Roberto Jr. right down in the back of the bag. And we're going to start rolling out new pictures, collectible bags. They fold up. You can do whatever you want with them. But this is our coffee company. So if you want to support us, go to castbrew.com. We are opening coffee shops. Hopefully we can have many of them all across the country. Maybe we just do a very simple franchise model where we create the general idea of what we want to do with the space, and then we just let people open their own, and then boom, overnight, we'll have 1,000 locations across this country, and when you walk in to go buy your coffee, there's a TV, it's playing Timcast, another TV, it's playing Crowder, another TV, Viva and Barnes, so that we can push our culture into these spaces. But also, don't forget to go to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member, because we're going to have a members-only uncensored show coming up for you tonight, and if you're a member for at least 6 months, or you sign up at the $25 per month level, you can actually submit questions, potentially call into the show. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Seth Weathers.
Great to be here. I'm on castbrew.com.
Oh, wait, start over.
I said great to be here. I'm on castbrew.com because I feel bad. I have not subscribed, but I'm going to get the subscription for the coffee.
Oh,
it does smell.
Club.
Yeah, it smells amazing.
It's really good.
It is good. And it's actually very good.
And I'm actually just about to crack open this ultra-right conservative dad's beer. 100% woke-free American beer.
We'll see if he's woke free after this is over.
Oh wow, that's good. I'm impressed. I'm not a big beer guy. That's pretty good. That's nice.
Yeah. Beer.
So who are you? What do you do aside from I'm drinking your beer?
Seth Weathers launched this beer company about a month and a half ago. At this point, and at this point in my life, I do nothing but manage a beer company. So it's taken off. We put out a video, an ad that I think probably a lot of your viewers have seen because you put it out there. Yeah, you put it out the day we launched it. And on my Twitter account alone, I think we have over 46 million views, which is nuts because I don't have some huge Twitter account. And it's just continued to get traction. You know, I think overall online, between all the different places it's been placed, we're probably about 100 million views. Like, you don't start a beer company and have that kind of brand ID. It's wild.
Yeah, it's actually really. I'm not a big beer guy. I like Yingling. I like this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a solid beer. You know, it's not, you know, this came out of the Bud Light controversy, but I do want to let people know this is not a Bud Light knockoff, because I don't think Bud Light is a real beer. It's a watered down beer. By the way, they were actually sued and lost millions of dollars for literally watering down their beer in the past.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of times when they're telling you alcohol content and everything else, they've literally been busted for that in the
How
past.
do you water down water?
Yeah, well, it's actually a horse.
I thought. Wait, isn't Bud Light seltzer?
Well, so this is your main thing right now, right?
Yes, we're growing a lot. We're currently brewing in Georgia, and we're also brewing in Florida now, and we'll probably have people in other places around the country contract to brew this beer. And it's the growth has been wild. It's people like your listeners and you guys, literally you, that have helped support this and get it off the ground. And it's something that. There's a lot of people that said this would never happen. You know, they said they'll never find someone to brew it, especially not with that very dirty word conservative right on the bottle, which was bold and dangerous, but we did it. They said we'll never get it brewed, we'll never get it bottled, you'll never get a distributorship, you'll never get licensed, you'll never get federal approval. These are all things that we've done in 45 days for one of the highest regulated industries there is in America. And it's wild this even happened in that. A lot of the right doors open. I was telling Ian earlier, it seems like every time a door shut, a better door open. I know that sounds cliche, but that's just kind of how this process has been. And, you know, it's exciting to see. I was excited to see conservatives stick through a boycott. And I've said
now. Me too.
But let's get into all that stuff. We got a lot to talk about because I think this is sticking. It's expanding. We're seeing the corporate press start to freak out over it. So, Seth, thanks for joining us. We got Seamus Coughlin drinking a beer over here.
Yeah, I mean, it's cold. I like it. It's good. It's like a light beer with a little bitter kick to it. It really is good. They didn't pay me to say that. I've enjoyed my first couple sips of this. I'm Seamus Coughlin. I have a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes. We just uploaded a video today that I think you guys are going to enjoy. It's about American public schools and the way that the left usually portrays them and satirizes them as being rah, 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 pro-America, and then what public schools are actually like. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. We had a lot of fun. We took an extra couple days on it just to throw more visual gags into it. We were going to upload it last Thursday, but we spent extra time with it, so it's a really solid piece, and I think you'll all enjoy it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It is Tuesday. Welcome. I hope you had a good Memorial Day, man. I'm Ian Crossland. Seth, so would you consider this a light beer? Because I'm drinking it now. It is light. It has kind of a light effervescence to it.
Legally, I cannot print on that can that it is a light beer without some kind of federal testing or something we have to go through. But I would say, you know, for me, I would call it a mid-range between light and I guess full-bodied, somewhere in there. So again, it's not like a Bud Light, which again I think we were kind of making jokes about, is just a beer flavored water. So we're not that. So it's a real full flavored beer.
You know, I think you're kind of filling a gap because Budweiser, maybe it was an American company at some point. It's been sold to AB InBev. Now it's a Belgian company.
Yeah. Correct.
Their headquarters is in Leuven, Belgium. So
Yeah,
thanks for making an American beer company.
100% made in America.
Right on. Well, that's Ian for you. He's back. We got Serge here. Back.
And I'm here, guys. Hope you had a good Memorial weekend as well. And thanks for the beer, Seth. Appreciate
Anytime.
it. Yeah.
Can I just mention something here about this beer and a lot of the other products that are being launched by conservatives now? This isn't the case for all of them. And there are some that are still outsourcing, but I know even some of those are trying to bring more manufacturing to the U.S. in the long run. And that's kind of the point I want to make, which is one of the advantages of all of these conservative brands blowing up in response to left-wing shenanigans is they're starting more American-based companies.
Absolutely.
Well, let's jump into this first story, and we'll talk all about it. We got this tweet from Mark J. Perry. He says, "Get woke, go broke." Target shares have dropped by 15.3% in the last 11 days since the boycott started over LGBTQ-friendly kids' clothing, representing an eye-popping loss in its market value of $11.4 billion. This story from Fox Business. They say Target and Bud Light investors lose billions on marketing misses. Target and Anheuser-Busch have lost a combined $28 billion in market value. The Target thing stands out the most to me because this wasn't, look, I understand the Dylan Mulvaney thing. Dylan Mulvaney's audience are children. Dylan Mulvaney is effectively just playing a character like Borat or who was the other character he played? Bruno, was that it?
Yeah, that's one of them. Ali
Bruno.
G, all those guys.
That's basically what Dylan Mulvaney's doing. And when people see that, they're put off by it, they're angered by it, they're insulted by it. They say, hey, we want an apology.
Well, it's also an adult male playing the role of a little girl.
Yep.
Which
Well,
made it even more, yeah.
That's like Bruno. That's like
Yeah.
it's right. It disturbs people. What I've heard from many people is, and I'm not trying to be overtly derisive, but people have said disgust.
Yes.
And so at first I was saying of the Bud Light boycott that people just don't want to be associated with an effeminate beer. Then I had people say to me like, no, they look at it with disgust because it's associated now. I can understand the boycott there is very strong. The emotions are very strong. The thing with Target is that this is just a company doing their typical Pride Month thing. All of the companies are going to start putting the Pride Month stuff out there. Target now losing billions, 11.4 billion in market value for doing what companies have done for some time. That marks a massive shift. That's why I think this story is so important. Because typically, these companies do this stuff, nobody bats an eye. Conservatives don't do a thing. But now we're experiencing a cascade in an exponential gain in in the Bud Light effect. That is,
Yes.
here's how I described it earlier. Somebody's holding shares stock in Target and Bud Light. Let's say they got 100 of each, hypothetical number. And they're told, don't worry, the Bud Light thing will blow over, boycotts never work. And they say, okay, and they're sitting on $63 per share. Now it's at 59, and they're going, dude, I just lost like 8% because you told me to wait. So they sell. That triggers the price going down even more. But they're also holding Target stock. Let's just say it's at a hypothetical number X. And then the controversy breaks. They go, nuh-uh, I am not going to wait around and lose another 10%. They sell. Now there is a fear in the market being brewed. Doesn't matter if you actually oppose wokeness. It doesn't matter if you support wokeness. All that matters is if a company gets woke, their stock will go down. And that will create a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And I think what happened with the whole Bud Light effect, as you called it, which is a great term, is it gave conservatives confidence because we had zero reason to be confident in any type of boycott. I've said for years, we've got to pick one company. I've said this for probably 10 years. We got to pick one company that's done something. It's got to be something we can live without. We can certainly live without horse urine. I don't want to get you a mark on YouTube here. We got to pick one company that we can do without and go all in and cause permanent economic damage. Until we cause permanent economic harm to one of these companies, it'll keep happening. We skip a couple football games, but we're back in the stands 3 weeks later, 3 games later. They don't give a crap. They know that, the conservatives will be back. They cave every time. We'll have a blip for 3 weeks. Yep. This sent the message that, oh, wow, these guys are sticking to it. They're angry. And when people see the effect of the Bud Light thing, it's like you said, it's self-fulfilling. Now they're wanting to recreate it. They're energized and they have a confidence level of, hey, we can actually do this as conservatives. Like, wow, we do have half the buying power.
Take a look at this story from New York Mag. Just asking questions is the section. Bud Light, Target, and a new era of corporate caution by Benjamin Hart. I love this. He says, initially he thought nothing would happen. He says, I assumed it would have little to no effect. Instead, it has delivered a major hit to Bud Light sales. He then goes on to say, do you think, okay, let me start over. How unusual is it for a campaign to be working this well? And do you think those factors are why it's been so successful? Ladies and gentlemen, pat yourselves on the back. I mean, this is significant. This is going on 2 months now, and it's only getting worse for any of the brands associated with the cult.
Yeah, and this is extremely encouraging to see. You mentioned a moment ago the fact that the Bud Light boycotts went very well. Significant damage was caused to a company which was pushing something horrible. I remember when the Target boycotts began, one thing I said was we need to be very careful about ensuring that we stick to the Target boycott because this is going to determine whether the Bud Light boycott was a fluke or whether conservatives as a market are going to retain this power.
Well, yeah, they've got to be. If the thing is, if we jump out there too quick and we start trying to boycott everything real quick, none of them will be successful.
Agreed.
And we will start losing our effectiveness, which is back to what I was saying. Is we have to cause permanent economic harm to a large company. And Bud Light has so far been that company. And it looks like their brand, man, I've never seen a brand destroyed so quickly and so succinctly ever. They're not going to be able to just come back and all of a sudden, they've put out bottles with camouflage bottles. They just put out a Harley Davidson special edition bottle.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's just harming Harley Davidson. It's not bringing their brand back. And so again, if we stick to it, I don't know how long a Target boycott will last. That it's harder for a lot of people to do without.
It's not about the boycott, though. That's the important thing.
No, I get what you're saying on the other side of it, but just saying as to what conservatives will actually stick through and holding the feet to their fire economically.
I don't think conservatives actually boycotted Target. I think regular people got pissed.
Yeah.
So I see two things happening. Bud Light was a boycott. It was high-profile individuals. Then what this guy points out in the New York Mag article is that people boycott, so the media picks it up, so the news spreads, so more people boycott. With Target, I think something was happening before the news even broke. We started seeing these videos pop up of people complaining. Then news broke of Target saying they had confrontations. Well, hold on. There was not enough time to have elapsed in when people on Twitter saw videos and when confrontations could have happened.
Yeah.
I think regular people walked into Target and went, yo, WTF, I got my kids with me. I don't want them seeing this stuff. Yeah. Then they filmed videos. Then Target responded. What we're seeing now with Target's stock collapsing is connected to Bud Light. But it doesn't matter what. So here's the important thing. Look, when the way I explained this last week was that I knew this woke woman, and she inherited property from her family in New York. And she was talking about marginalized people and all of that stuff. And I asked her if a black family moved next to her property in New York, would she sell? And she went, of course. And I was like, are you kidding? I was like, that's racist. I was like, why would you do that? And she said, because property value goes down. And I was like, are you kidding me? It goes down because people like you do this. And she's like, yup, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm not going to be the one who gets economically hurt by the system. What people need to understand is that the biases, I've talked about this before, this is the systemic bias. The market responds to fear of the market.
Yes.
And we've now created that because of Bud Light. It does not matter what people do going to Target. All that matters is the stock will go down.
Yep.
That means you could do absolutely nothing, and people holding Target will lose money because of the negative press, causing them to panic sell, causing the price to go down, creating a cascade effect.
I'm reminded of this quote that's attributed to Mayor Amschel Rothschild, who founded the Rothschild banking dynasty, which was like the precursor to the world, the banking, this liberal economic order banking dynasty is the Rothschilds. They said that he said, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes its laws. So when you talk about having control of money, it's not necessarily who prints it. That's not where the control ends. It's how you spend it. And when you get enough people to come together to choose how to spend their money and how not to spend their money,
Absolutely.
You are more powerful than any amount of lawmaking. And this is shown with this AB InBev drop in 11% of their stock value and Target's drop in 11%. I mean, you can make bank runs. That's the most powerful force on earth if you want to talk about like. And I'm not advocating for that. I thought a lot about that over the last 15 years. Like, wow, I could just tell everyone to pull their money out on a certain day at a certain time. But it's like that almost feels like economic terrorism. But that amount of power that you could to move the market and control Earth.
I think Congress commits economic terrorism on us every single day
their
during
job.
session.
Yeah, it's their job. This phrase economic terrorism, I was just going to mention this because you're absolutely correct that the people have a tremendous power. This is called the dollar democracy. You can choose where you spend your money and companies are afraid of that. That is why they're trying to label what's happening to Target a kind of economic terrorism. They're referring to us as extremists for not wanting to shop there anymore. It's because they're scared.
I think as long as you're not trying to hurt people and destroy the system, there's no terror involved. You have no responsibility or to spend your money anywhere. That's
remember,
totally up to you.
The terror is the inverse. The terror is when Antifa is like, you must support these things or else.
Or when they burn Target down, like they did. Target got burnt down by BLM in a riot, and then they issued a statement saying, we support BLM. People started
That was amazing.
boycotting Target because they're pushing the gross, groomy LGBTQ agenda onto kids, and Target was like, well, this is completely unacceptable. You have no right to do that.
Did you see a lot
No,
of
Target said, we're so sorry, we're going to hide all this stuff in the back and then whisper to the LGBT community saying, don't worry, we got your back. So
Well, they did kind of like what Bud Light did. We're hiding it in the back because these conservatives are so dangerous they're going to come hurt you. And then one thing that I like to point out that a lot of people missed with the whole Bud Light thing, there's all this talk you hear constantly that, Bud Light, they fired their VP of marketing. They didn't fire anyone. Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
They're on paid leave. And if you even read their statement as to why she went on paid leave, at the end of the statement, I don't have it in front of me right now. I could pull it up, I guess. It says something to the effect of being concerned for the safety of our employee, almost implying she was in so much danger from conservatives by being out in front. They never disavowed anything they did. Conservatives wanted to call victory on that, and you can't.
I want to jump to the story from Newsweek. Ladies and gentlemen, the latest update in the sales numbers coming through this morning at 7 a.m. Bud Light sales dropped 29.5% in latest week. 30%. We round up here. 30%. That is massive.
Anecdotally,
that is brutal, dude.
We were at a hotel over the weekend, and they had drink tickets from 537 free drinks. I was like, great, I'll get a beer. I'll get something IPA. They're like, the only free beer is Bud Light. Did you notice that? Did you guys notice that?
For real? Say that?
Yeah, it was Bud Light and one other Bud.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's
like, man,
so
they cannot shove it out the door fast.
Like, you know what? I'll pay for my drink. Okay.
Thanks. I'm not getting the cheap free.
They're trying to move it. They can't get out.
Well,
they
it's
can't get off the
inspiring,
shelves.
and so they know it's going to go bad eventually, and so it's going to be worth literally zero to them. So I mean, the economic situation,
it becomes a cost.
They have to remove it.
How long does a beer last?
It depends on the beer and the bottle, even down to the cans. It depends on the beer and the cans. Like, I mean, it's some people say different times. You can easily have a beer for 6 months, but you got to keep in mind. Some people say way longer. I wouldn't say, but you got to keep in mind those beers that are on the shelf. They came and got it and put it on the shelf on Thursday.
Right.
That beer was not canned with a company like Bud Light. That was not canned, the week prior.
Right.
This is a massive process with these things. So they've been traveling around the country depending on where they're at.
Does it get better like over time, like wine?
No, definitely not.
Gets more bitter, more like rancid.
Probably flattens, right?
It flattens. I don't know that I would say rancid. I haven't tried a super old beer, so I can't really say, but I do know it goes bad.
Check this out. They say, according to data by Bump Williams Consulting and Nielsen IQ provided to Newsweek, in the week ending May 20th, sales volume, the number of units of beer sold declined 29.5% compared to the same period last year, while sales revenue was down 25.7% on the same. Look, this is not just a success. That we were reading a previous article for those who are just tuning in, talking about New York Mag saying why it's so successful. Success is an understatement. Success is like someone boycotts a product and then the sales drop in the single digits and the company apologizes a week later and then you move on. This is 30% 2 months later. This is brand ending apocalyptic. The fear is probably rippling through all these other companies. Target loses $11 billion in market value, and they explicitly said, we fear a Bud Light situation.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. You just touched on it a little bit earlier. A huge part of this is the fact that we've politicized issues that should not be political, right? Forcing this stuff onto kids shouldn't be a political issue, and your average person knows that. They're perturbed by it without being a member of a specific political party, even if the Republican Party is the only one which will stand against it. Your average person isn't a fan of it. And when it comes to Dylan Mulvaney, your average person is grossed out by Dylan Mulvaney. They don't want to, look, a man in a dress is a very off-putting thing, especially a man in a dress who really thinks he's a woman.
Chick-fil-A is doing it.
Yeah, well, Chick-fil-A is going to get themselves into some trouble there, but all I'll say is, This isn't just ideologically charged. This is your average person, as you mentioned, building up an association of disgust with a brand.
I just want to say, I don't think a guy in a dress is gross. It's a guy that pretends to be a little girl. That's when I start to be like, wait.
I think that makes it way worse. I think that makes it way worse. Both are gross to me, but I think that makes it way worse.
It would be another thing if it was
like
in a play. And the guy they just cast an adult man as the little girl in the play. I can even suspend my disbelief for the sake of entertainment. But it's when it's like people are saying I'm really this way.
I would want to question the person that made that casting call.
Yeah.
Theater people are weird.
The Dylan Mulvaney thing is not just that it's a man, dressing up in a dress. It's not that it's a man pretending to be a little girl. It's that Dylan Mulvaney is intentionally insulting everyone.
Well, and Bud Light was asking you to lie to us. So let's remember the whole purpose of the can was celebrating 365 days of being a woman.
But the can wasn't the issue.
No, I understand, but I'm saying the whole point of them doing a sponsorship with her was, in their words, celebrating him being a woman for 365 days.
Except what initially started this wasn't just the can. It was a video of Dylan Mulvaney grabbing a stack of Bud Lights, putting them down, and then the media claimed everyone's mad over a single can that was sent as a thank you, having nothing to do. They're lying. Dylan Mulvaney's Instagram post has a Bud Light contest hashtag. Dylan Mulvaney places a bunch of Bud Light, says thanks, cracks one open, talks about their program and how you can participate or whatever. It was clearly a direct Bud Light sponsorship having nothing to do with the can. The media tries twisting it and lying because they don't want regular people to know what's going on. But here's what I see. You name it, Dylan Mulvaney is the negative marketing element. You've got people who are like, wow, why is this guy dressing up like a little girl? You've got conservatives who don't like men in dresses, as Seamus described it. Ian, who is not conservative, but still be like, this acting like a little girl is extremely off-putting. I agree with both to a certain degree, but I think Dylan Mulvaney insults women, Dylan Mulvaney insults trans people, and Dylan Mulvaney insults liberals, and like literally just insulting everyone in any way imaginable. And I think it's on purpose. There was a video that went viral of Dylan watching some movie and fake crying. And once again, they're laughing in the background. They're laughing at Dylan fake crying. And I don't think they're laughing because of the moment. I think they're genuinely, I think Dylan goes, hey guys, watch this. Did you see that? Wasn't that funny? And then they're all laughing. They're having a good time mocking people. And I think Dylan's exploiting the algorithm, and that's why TikTok is propping up these videos.
Dude, the video of Dylan on Twitter where he's like, I feel like now I'm attracted to women. I told my dad, he's like, well, good. I hope you get a girl pregnant. He's like, no, she's going to get me pregnant. And it's like, dude, he is joking. He's a goofball. Like the dude is pulling one over on the human race.
It's Borat.
Yeah.
It is Bruno. It is a person so again, we've mentioned this before, but this is what we've had I've had a couple trans social media personalities tell me the facial hair removal laser stuff is the easiest and cheapest thing to do, and Dylan has not done it.
But I think that Dylan is a very good example of Poe's law, right? You're all saying that you think it's an act because he's clearly being ridiculous, but we're at a point where reality is indistinguishable from satire.
What's Poe's law?
I see. Basically, that the idea that at some point it becomes incredibly difficult to tell the difference between somebody's sincere opinion and satire because of how ridiculous things have gotten.
Yeah, that is true. If you pretend to be something, you kind of become that thing.
Yeah, well, and also it's this idea, or the way it's usually used is to express that things are so out of control right now that you can't tell if somebody's serious when they say something, because even just a few years ago it would be a joke, or if someone else said it would be a joke. For example, I won't state it out loud, but we asked a certain left-wing commentator if performing certain acts,
adult
activities on the male body is gay, and he said not if it's on a woman, which it's
awesome. Here's the
and that's Poe's law, because that's like a joke,
but
right?
Beyond that, he said, I have no problem. It's Lance from The Surf. He's on the show. He said that if a man engages in relations with a masculine, ugly woman, he is gay.
Yeah.
And Ian was like, "That's not cool, man. You can't call someone gay because their girlfriend's ugly." Like for real, like that's kind of messed up. Like their mentality
sure that's happened, but
So I think you're right. I think what happens is Poe's law is a good example of what happens on the internet. Dylan Mulvaney goes in hiking heels, wearing high heels and dancing in the forest, and then falling down because of a bug. I think that's fake, but kids don't know it's fake, and so they start imitating these behaviors. You then end up with people like Lance, who I think he's 40-something years old, genuinely believing that is the left, and then going on a public show to millions of people and saying, if you date an ugly woman, you're gay. And if you date a small, petite, effeminate man, you are not gay. It's like, okay, wait, what, dude?
I hear you, but I think the difference is, so part of Poe's law is that it's indistinguishable. I think that is the left.
This means all bears will be surprised to learn that their twink boyfriends make them straight.
I mean, I get, well, because he was also saying we can't have hot or not, right? So it was all very confused.
Himself several times.
Yeah, but I guess my overarching point is things have gone so off the rail, and the left's morality surrounding human sexuality and quote unquote gender, which is a term I hate, is so insane that it might seem like someone is joking. It might seem too ridiculous to believe, but that doesn't mean it's not real.
Well, do you think satire and parody are like satanic?
No, I don't think so, because I think they can be used to highlight truth. But I think that what happens is the world can become so insane that something which in any other era would be a harmless joke is now something taken seriously. So here's a great example. There was a bit in Monty Python's Meaning of Life where a child is born and they give it to the mother, and the mother says, is it a boy or a girl? And the doctor says, well, it's a bit early to be assigning roles to it, don't you think? And I remember seeing that 10 years ago and going, oh my gosh, they made this joke decades ago, and this is actually about to be a massive social justice issue, quote unquote, and it is now. So I don't think that it was evil for Monty Python to make that joke. I think the direction that our country has gone in is evil.
You know what I was thinking earlier today? Gen Z and millennials are literally Idiocracy. Now, Idiocracy was a lot of gag humor and stuff, but I was we did this video segment last week. Isabel Brown had a clip where this comedian's mocking Gen Z for being unable to write in cursive, unable to use calculators or find directions and use paper maps, and this
Or
woman,
work.
or work. But seriously, they don't want to work. Polls show they don't want to do work.
I'm aware.
And she said that if Gen Z does take over, it'll be really easy to take it back. And then Isabel Brown makes the point, like, you were supposed to teach us. I was thinking about that, and I'm like, it's not just Gen Z. Millennials, too, are completely incapable. Seamus and I were talking about one of the guests we had in this show, a lefty. And he said something like, if you want to cover healthcare, just deficit spend, print the money to pay the bills. And I said, okay, let's start from the beginning. Where does food come from? And his response was,
At the grocery store.
and we're like,
This was an adult.
an adult human male, and what is he? Was he 30s or something? And we're like, no, food doesn't come from the grocery store. It goes. Oh my! Like, okay, first you have a farm. They make the food. Then it gets sent to maybe a regional processing plant where that particular food item is processed. Then it has to get bottled, shipped to a bottling plant. Then it gets shipped to a regional warehouse where it's then sent, depending on the product you have. Sometimes fruits are directly handled right there on the farm, sent to a regional distribution, and then right to the supermarkets. If it's so I knew somebody who did honey. One company would go and collect all the honey from 50 small farms, bottle it at their plant, and then distribute it. So there was 3 steps. But no, not the grocery store. Thinking about that, I realized we're in Idiocracy.
Yeah,
we're literally at the point where you walk up to the guy and say, well, where's the food? Grocery store don't have any. And you're like, no, food comes from farms. What? It comes from the grocery store. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. By the way, I don't want to mention who it was, and the conversation was off air, but it wasn't Lance. Because we just mentioned it was not Lance.
I want to know. Tell me off air.
Yeah, but
That's hilarious.
I've had numerous conversations with people where I've talked about this. I had one conversation during the lockdowns where I tried explaining. I was tweeting to somebody, and I said they were talking about food in the grocery store and giving people money, and they were like, the government should just start giving people more money to cover their bills while we're locked down. And I said, right, but money represents labor. It's debt,
Exactly.
right? So if you're creating the means to acquire without creating the means themselves, like, you're going to create this inverse reaction. He's like, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. And I'm like, let's start from the beginning. Where does milk come from? And you know what he said? The grocery store.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is what I try
Supermarket.
to... So this is one way I try to explain this to people. The economy is like a giant pizza, and the amount of currency you have is the amount of slices in that pizza. If the pizza doesn't get any bigger, all cutting more slices into it does is diminishes each slice. Now, you could be in a situation where, I don't know, you don't feel that the pie, given its size, is being distributed adequately, so we have to make more slices. You can make that argument, but to say, well, the pie isn't growing, let's slice it up more, is idiotic.
Yeah, but then you get 2 slices instead of 1 chance.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's lit.
But that's actually the reasoning when they say just print more money. You're just cutting more slices into a pizza that's either staying the same size or even shrinking.
And then I thought to myself, I was like, we're in Idiocracy. It's like, we're here.
Have you seen how popular Crocs are these days?
Oh man.
Yeah, we're there.
All right, everybody, I got bad news for you.
Uh-oh.
It's time to bring up the dark news. These are the dark days from News Channel 8 on your side. Chick-fil-A's DEI leader sparks calls for boycott. That's right. Chick-fil-A has hired a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, VP, named Eric McReynolds. Says Chick-fil-A restaurants have long been recognized as a place where people know they will be treated well. Modeling care for others starts in the restaurant, and we are committed to ensuring mutual respect, understanding, and dignity everywhere we do business. These tenets are good business practice and crucial for fulfilling our corporate purpose, blah, blah, blah. They then go on to list a whole bunch of garbage and people and stuff like that. And at the bottom, they say that they have a commitment to DEI.
Look, I'm from Georgia, which is where Chick-fil-A is based out of and literally was formed and founded. If there's a long-term boycott of Chick-fil-A, then conservatives won everything, because I don't know that you're going to pull that one off, because there's a lot of people that are going to fight back on that.
I say boycott Chick-fil-A.
I'm not saying whether you do or not. I'm saying if it actually is successful, I will be very impressed, because that's going to be I could not imagine a more difficult company to talk conservative moms into boycotting in my home state of Georgia. That's going to be a rough one.
Even if you're showing them this,
they will overlook a lot. And I think a lot of those moms don't, when you just say DEI, like, look, they're taking their kids to 14 different practices and running around all over the place, and you're trying to say DEI this, and like, I don't know. I'm just getting my kids nuggets with a pleasant person that's nice to me. Well, I get what you're saying with the argument for it. I just don't know that it will be successful.
Yeah, so
it's easier to villainize Bud Light, than Chick-fil-A.
I would agree, but this is also part of why this is so disappointing to me. Chick-fil-A has sort of had a bit of wokeness creeping into it over the years. In 2020, during the BLM riots, I believe that the founder was supporting BLM. Don't quote me on that. It might have either been the founder or the CEO. But there have been a number of issues there, and it's a shame, because I was very proud to support Chick-fil-A and what they were doing for quite a while. And I thought the left's reaction to them was very fascinating and very telling, because the left said that Chick-fil-A was evil. And why was Chick-fil-A evil? Well, because one of the owning members or CEOs or higher-ups didn't spend the company's money, but spent his own money donating to an organization that was not pro-LGBTQ, that was in favor of preserving marriage.
It was a church camp or something.
Yeah, and people lost their minds over this.
Yeah.
Now think about this for a moment. Chick-fil-A is known to not only be one of the most profitable fast food chains per franchise, but they're also known to be one of the best franchises in terms of how they treat their employees. They pay them decently, especially as far as fast food restaurants go, and they ensure to give all of them one single day off every single week, where they're not going to try to profit off of them. They're going to give them a day to relax and be there for their family, even if it means they're not selling to their customers that day. The worst thing the left should have been able to say about Chick-fil-A is, well, it's morally complicated, because they should have appreciated the fact that they treated their workers well, but they don't, because they don't care about workers. They care about their sick, perverse sexual agenda, and anyone who opposes it, even with just a whisper, has to be absolutely destroyed. And I remember Burger King released an advertisement during Pride Month about 2 years ago, where they said they were releasing their own chicken sandwich, and their chicken sandwich was in favor of LGBTQ rights, and you could get it on Sunday. So in the same breath, they were mocking Chick-fil-A for being anti-LGBTQ and mocking them for giving their workers one day off of work. Burger King should be ashamed for the way they treat their workers.
It's not just a sexual agenda. It is an all-around cultural revolution.
Yeah, but I think it starts with that. I think that's a huge part of it.
I think it's just absolutely obvious what this is. Like, we talked about this before, but DEI, literally is the Latin singular for God. These people are creating offices of God, but it's not. It's a simulacrum. Someone commented that a moment ago, that Dylan Mulvaney is a simulacrum, not the words in my mind. It is a false image of religion that is being created to substitute it for people, and they are marching in lockstep like deranged psychopaths.
That's all. I think both are true.
Cultural. The son, Dan Cathy Jr., is not his father, and if I had to make a prediction and bet all the beer in the world on it, I would say that Dan Cathy Jr. is going to cave to the left.
Dan Cathy Jr., who's that?
Yeah. The son, and maybe the second junior or whatever.
Of the owner of Chick-fil-A?
Yeah. Truett Cathy's the founder, and then I guess...
Oh, I see. Dan Cathy is the chairman.
Is he...
Currently.
Right, but is he a junior? Maybe,
I disagree with you. I think Chick-fil-A will be one of the easier things to boycott.
No, I'm saying, I'll bet you money on that one. I'm just, they're not a public company. They're not a public company.
Which means it's easier to pressure.
No, you can't go after their stock.
But see, the thing about Chick-fil-A is that they already have the disadvantage of being the Christian company when it comes to the issue with the left. So the left is targeting them very heavily and ignoring all these other companies that have done anything remotely similar. I think one of the funny things about the Chick-fil-A boycotts from the left was that other companies had made similar donations, but nobody cared. It's because Chick-fil-A was overtly Christian.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, my understanding, they're trying to get into more urban markets, but because Chick-fil-A is so pronounced, conservatives have identify with it, and are now going to be, in my opinion, much more offended by it. And you mentioned suburban moms. Dad might be like, I go to Popeyes. That's all it takes. All it takes is for the husband or the dad to be like, just go to Popeyes, honey. It's across the street.
The thing
I
about,
get it, but I'm from Georgia, and look, I get the understanding of like we should all this kind of stuff. But go to a Chick-fil-A in suburbia Georgia right now, and you're not going to see a lot of dads in there. You're going to see a lot of moms with a lot of little kids.
And what I'm saying is when mom is like, hey, I'm going to pick up the kids after soccer, and then we're going to go grab some Chick-fil-A, and all it takes is for him to say, bring them to Popeyes.
well, the one thing though,
I get
this
that, but
Chick-fil-A
that's not
is
enough.
incredibly efficient.
Look, if the mom doesn't care about the brand at all, then the slightest nudge should knock her off.
No,
shouldn't
but the
it?
moms love the brand. That's what I'm saying. The moms absolutely love the Chick-fil-A brand.
But-
I cannot think of a brand the suburban moms love more than Chick-fil-A. At least in
But
the
for-
South.
for what-
Keep in mind, y'all don't have them up here yet, do you?
Not
We do.
really.
What do you mean? We have them all over the place. We get Chick-fil-A all the time.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
thing-
we,
I
we
grew up
order
with
big things
them
of
not
Chick-fil-A here.
around.
We're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy from them.
I would agree with you if
Every mall's got it.
I would agree with
no.
you if the point was simply that, people are only going to Chick-fil-A because of the more conservative values, the fact that they've been maligned by the left, but they have probably the most efficient drive-through system
Yes.
of any fast food chain. They get you in and they get you out no matter how long that line
Absolutely
is.
wrong.
Oh, no, that is not wrong. You cannot, you absolutely,
No way.
I'm
All right, who's
completely
better?
correct.
That's aficionado.
Snopes fact-checked. What you said was true. Snopes agrees with you. I'm correct about this.
Chick-fil-A's drive-through is overloaded.
What? Explain it.
If there's one drive-through restaurant that I've left, it's Chick-fil-A.
And that's
Are you
up here
serious?
locations?
This was
All right.
in Jersey and down here.
Okay, in Jersey,
Okay.
yes. Here's the problem.
And-
That's
and
what I'm
down
talking about.
here.
Okay,
And down
even,
here.
even here. So that's what I'm talking about in the South. Maybe y'all don't have enough homeschool kids here to run the Chick-fil-A's like we do in the South. But that is like jokingly, it is largely run by homeschool
Look, man,
kids.
if you think the moral fiber of the homeschool kids and conservatives are so weak they can't even push back on this, then so be it. Of all the
you're not going to
companies-
have me arguing the strong moral fiber of conservatives willing to stand up. I've been proud and impressed to see that with Bud Light, but we have a history of conservatives of not standing up for anything,
I
and fighting
agree.
back. So that's I get it,
but also like about the drive-through thing. Yo,
They're
that's
so efficient.
crazy. The lines take so long,
Oh,
and
I
I
totally
understand it's an
disagree.
issue of demand.
Yeah.
but I would say every time I've gone to Taco Bell, I drive up, I
When you
order.
live Moss?
When we live Moss, we drive up. We wait a little bit, we order, we're gone. Starbucks, we wait a little bit, we drive up, we order, we're gone. Chick-fil-A, we sit in line, someone comes at the window, they take our order, we're sitting there, a half an hour later, we get our food, and I'm like, there's 2 lanes to go through, there's an exit lane. It's insane. They've prioritized their drive-through to such a ridiculous degree. On more than one occasion, we've just been like, let's just leave, and then we've pulled out and left because it took too long.
Every time I've ever gone there, I've been extremely impressed with how quickly I got through the drive-thru. Like I've been to McDonald's or Taco Bell or Wendy's with a line that was a quarter of the length of Chick-fil-A lines I've been in. It took 5 times as long.
That's my experience.
It looks like
it would be different in the South. I promise you this.
That could also be, but the thing is, when you're in the South, like, I'm sorry, I also have lived in Georgia for a number of years. Service is usually much slower there. But when I go to Chick-fil-A down there, it is like you are in and out.
Then go to the one here.
Yeah, I don't
I may
think
do
so.
that
It's
tomorrow.
bad.
I'm just
No, I'm
genuinely
boycotting
curious
Chick-fil-A,
now.
Tim.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, yeah. I mean, look, they've hired a DEI. This is more than just a promotional campaign. This is outright saying from the top down, they have put a cult, non-theistic religious office in their business.
Yeah.
And it's worse than the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party, as a government agency, puts Communist Party offices in businesses in China, but it is an element of government. This is a cult that is putting its tendrils in everything. And the story that the media is running is that the right is angry over like equality or something like that. They're lying, of course. They're making up lies. The reality is non-theistic, it's the beer. Non-theistic religion is now putting itself in all of our businesses and then forcing those businesses to destroy themselves. Unless, like, we're at the point now where it may be that the moral fiber of the average American, if you're right, is so pathetic that we're doomed.
Well,
That's it.
I think part of what's
Well, that's
really
part of what
disturbing
we're
about the
doing.
Chick-fil-A situation is that usually with this DEI stuff, when it's implemented, my understanding is it's because people think that that will make their business more attractive to venture capital or shareholders, but Chick-fil-A isn't even a publicly traded company. I have no
Unless they
idea
have
where
some
the
kind of
demand
plans-
was.
Unless they have
Yeah.
some kind of plans for venture capital,
Exactly.
expansion, et cetera. But that's part of what you're talking about, the lack of courage or sticking through that's part of a large part of why we created Conservative Dad's Ultra Right Beer. And it was to encourage people to make a stand and stick through that stand. And beer happens to be the catalyst. And, one thing I was talking with Scott Pressler about is we're going to use this as a catalyst we're going to actually have on the cans like a QR code where you can scan it to register to vote. Because we have tons of rural conservative individuals that drink a lot of beer but don't vote. And so we're going to use this as a catalyst to get those people to do that.
That is brilliant.
Tell them to vote responsibly.
Well, I think if they're drinking Conservative Dad's Ultra Right beer, there's a good chance they're going to vote okay.
I want to pull up this tweet from Samuel Say. This tweet helps you understand why it is that companies like Chick-fil-A get woke. He says, this is serious. Anthony Bass is a professing Christian. He shared a post supporting the Target boycott. Now he's apologizing for hurting the Pride community, and he says he'll better educate himself. He is betraying Jesus and his conscience. Pray for him. I want to play for you this short clip of what he had to say. Here we go.
I recognized yesterday I made a post that was hurtful to the Pride community, which includes friends of mine and close family members of mine, and I am truly sorry for that. I just spoke with my teammates and shared with them my actions yesterday. I apologized with them, and as of right now, I'm using the Blue Jays resources to better educate myself, to make better decisions moving forward. The ballpark is for everybody. We include all fans at the ballpark, and we want to welcome everybody. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
So this is him saying he's going to get re-educated. Like,
gross.
no joke. He says he's using the resources of the Blue Jays to better educate himself. It's literal. Like we used to make fun of this. In The Simpsons, they get re-educated.
That's right.
The idea of being forced to undergo a struggle session and education we knew in this country was a sign something was wrong.
But look at
this
that
pathetic coward of a man.
Yes,
this
hat in hand, pathetic. And that's back to what I was talking about with the caving. Conservatives tend to cave.
Yeah.
This guy's. How do you feel, Seamus? He's a Christian.
Yeah, I think he should have stayed strong to his values as a Christian. I mean, I don't know what to say.
I would say he's not a Christian.
Well, I can't say he's not a Christian, but I can say that I don't think a Christian should cave into a mob that's trying to promote sin.
How many
especially
times-
because he has
he's
young
not a
fans who
Christian.
look up to him.
He's not a Christian. When I was a little kid, I remember I went to Catholic school, and I remember we were learning about religious wars and stuff like that in a very limited sense. But I remember hearing about one religious faction would say convert or else. And then I always thought to myself, I was like, why not just lie? Just say, oh, sure, of course. I hereby convert so they don't kill you.
Well, that's
but
the thing,
people
but
would
that's fine
say
with them.
no. They would say no.
Exactly.
The fact that this guy, in what, a day, dropped to his knees and begged, please, I'll renounce my entire faith if you just leave me alone. Like, dude, his balls must have shrunk down to the size of marbles and sucked up right into his body.
Three times before the rooster crowed, he denied Christ from the way I heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll mention this. When you say that people would say convert or die, and some people would lie about that, I mean, in part, that's... when you ask, like, why not lie? Well, they're okay with you lying. They're okay with you not actually believing, as long as you're willing, to throw your beliefs under the bus. So I definitely hear what you're saying there.
They want you to profess to the world that you give up.
Yes, and I think it's very sad that he did this, and I really hope that he repents. I really hope he repents and turns back to Christ. But
He did. He's
I
gonna
also
go
am not
cash
going to
a check.
make a specific claim about his.
He was due to make $3 million in 2023, so that's what he's speaking for the $3
Well, it
million right
profits
now.
a man
Yeah.
nothing to give his soul and gain the world in return.
You think
Or
that he
gain
would
the
have
world
been
and lose
better
his soul.
if he just stuck to his word and got fired?
Amen. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what?
Because they're persecuting him for the sake of the kingdom. He should embrace it, right?
What is it? It's easier to fit a camel through the eye of a
It's
needle.
easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Yeah.
And that's exactly
but
why.
But with God, all things are possible. That said, yes, this
But
is one of the
that's
reasons.
exactly why.
That is one of the reasons.
because
It's-
this
it's very
guy
difficult to.
would. It's remarkable, but this says to me, this man is not a Christian. For if he truly believed there is nothing on God's green earth that would have him profess to the world a rejection of his faith, unless he did not have it in the first place.
I mean, it's hard. It's also really difficult to speak to whether someone had it in the first place, too. Those aren't claims I can make, but I would say that was not the Christian thing to do, to renounce.
But look, my point is this. Do you think this man truly believes that when he dies, he will be judged?
That action certainly doesn't indicate that he believes that.
That's
I
my
can't
point.
tell you what
He
he
doesn't
believes,
believe
but
in
the
judgment.
action doesn't indicate he believes.
He doesn't believe he'll be judged.
Yeah.
He believes that right now in his life, he can say anything for any personal gain. If he is a fake Christian, and this is an issue so many people on the left have had with Christians for a long time. People like him who claim to be Christians who clearly are not.
Well, no, they love Christians who are willing to cave into them, right? But their whole argument
what
is...
I mean is...
No, I get what you're saying. He's very valuable to the left, right?
For me growing up, so much of the complaints I heard in cities was that there were people who were claimed to be Christian, and then they would be the nastiest, most cutthroat, evil, greedy people you've ever met. And that's exactly what that guy
Christians
is.
give Christians a bad name often.
Yeah.
And I have an example that's I haven't really told this. So we originally started with this beer and we announced it. We had worked with a brewery in Illinois and they had told us initially, I don't think they understood how big this would get. And so initially they said, yes, they would brew the beer for us, yada, yada. Things were proceeding forward. And they let us know that they're very good Christians, that they are concerned about what's happening with all the trans stuff being pushed on kids. They're conservatives. These are things that are important to them. They believed. Well, they believed up until Newsweek called.
Oh.
And then they
What's the name of the brewery?
I pulled that out to make sure I did, because there's another brewery with a similar name. I wanted to make sure. I have not listed this on anything yet, so I'm giving it to you now, the correct one. It is Bent River Brewing Company in Rock Island, Illinois. They were afraid of backlash from the woke mobs because our can, I don't have it right side up, has the word conservative on it. And they bailed on us. So that's part of it. So we're our beer is shipping 30 days out. Oh, I mean, they put out to the media that, as soon as they saw our ad, they disassociated with us, that, more or less we're terrible people. They love everybody. But there were big, strong Christians that cared about trans ideology being pushed on kids in private conversation. And they lied. They said that they stopped working with us as soon as they saw our ad. I've got email communication with them after. So they're scumbags. And they did it under their giant Christian name.
They're not
which
Christians.
is not surprising. I understand. I'm making your point here with these individuals, and it is. I was 0 bit shocked when it happened because that's what I come to expect from these kind of individuals. And fortunately, we found other breweries. Now we got a huge brewery in Florida as well. We've made up for it.
How many true believers do you think there really are on the left?
That's a good question.
They're cognizant of their ideologies and their methods.
I think it's a very small percentage. I think most of them are just going along and getting along.
And that's true of Christians as well.
That's people.
Both,
Yeah.
So when people live in an area that's mostly Christian, they say, oh, of course we are.
Exactly.
Then the moment the left calls, hey, sure, we're left now.
The go along, get along people. I mean, this is what people say when they point out that if you lived in Nazi Germany, you probably would not have been on the right side of that.
These bastards would have turned them over in a freaking heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like they can't even stand up to saying, in a heartbeat. They can't handle pressure from you got some nasty email comments or Facebook comments because someone wants to cut dicks off kids and you're making a beer for a guy that says, maybe we shouldn't do that. If you can't stand up to that, I don't think you would have done too well with the whole Germany situation.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, there are too many Christians who are willing to sell out their faith, and we don't need more scared Christians.
I'm going to get a lot of crap for this, but I've said this for years, is the evangelical community, there's a part of it that they're out there voting in the primaries and they're hardcore, but the general Christian community as a whole, they preach something on Sunday, but they are the ones that cave. They're some of the absolute weakest individuals when it comes to this. And I'm probably going to get canceled for like the 48th time by saying this, but they continue to cave. And that's, again, kind of what this beer is about, what we're doing. It's encouraging people, we don't have to cave. And I think the whole Bud Light effect that you're talking about, it's conservatives are, for the first time, I feel like, you're using Target as the example. For the first time, I feel like conservatives are like, wow, we have this power. Like, what's this new power? Let's try it out. This is interesting. Because I don't think they really believed they had it prior to Bud Light. Well, I think that's what sold it to them.
Yeah, I think that's true. And there's another element I'll add here, which is that we got to remember that when it comes to Bud Light, Target as well, but more so Bud Light, there are easily accessible competitors. A person doesn't really have to make many significant changes in their life to just buy a different brand of beer. And so that's why conservatives have to realize that those in the movement who would consider themselves leaders, who are go-getters, have to start businesses so that there are competing brands with the big guys, so that when people do have to boycott these companies, they have somewhere else to go.
Man,
because if Bud Light was the only beer brand available, I think things would have gone differently, right? People had other options. It's good that we did. We need to start creating more options.
Matt, I think that greed a sin? Mm-hmm. Is greed a sin? So, but
one of the seven deadly.
But getting rich is not.
No, getting rich is not necessarily.
So you can be a
sinful.
rich Christian, even though they say you can't take your wealth with you. People that seek and grow familial wealth.
No, you can do a lot of good things with money.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you can. There's a rich Christian surely has to live differently than a rich pagan, right? A rich Christian has to do more with their money to support the church, to support the poor, to help others, and to
Elon Musk has done a lot for this country with his wealth. And honestly, here's something I should truly thank Elon Musk. This beer company would not exist without Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. And I can say that confidently because we got roughly over 45 million views on my Twitter of that ad. That would have never been allowed to happen in the past under previous ownership. And it's also why we didn't get near those kind of views on Facebook or Instagram or anything. They got a lot of views comparatively speaking, but nothing like it did on Twitter. Now that Elon is kind of taking the chains off.
It feels like the Christ is like blowing up through Elon, like it's bubbling in him, like that Christ energy, the anointed, like he's been, I don't know if he's been anointed by God, what that even means really, but like he's carrying the torch, like he's doing things that will make humanity better off through American ideals. And I don't know what better Christian thing you could do in the modern age.
It's an interesting point. I think I wouldn't describe it that way theologically. However, I do believe the truth is a person, and that person is Jesus Christ. So when somebody is forwarding truth, they are doing something for God in a sense, right? Like they're on the right side.
Dude, I really
maybe not in totality, but maybe not with everything they do, but in that particular
everything.
Yeah. But yeah. So
dude,
my point isn't like anytime anyone does something good, they are now a professing Christian. It's just to say that if you're fighting for truth, then that is a service.
What you guys are saying, Tim, what you brought up earlier, I think there are so many people that identify as Christians that aren't, and so many people that identify as Jewish that aren't, just because they don't believe in God. If you don't believe, like truly believe it, because I don't know if you have to experience it to believe that it's there, but like we'll say there's like 300 million Christians and probably like 0.00001% of them actually are Christian.
But there's 2.2 billion Christians worldwide,
and like probably like 100,000 of them that are actually Christ-like. Like,
yeah, but you got to remember, I mean, you don't join the church for the other Christians. You join the church for Christ. Like, other Christians are gonna sin. They're gonna be vicious. They're gonna fail to live up to what they should live up to. But so will you. So will all of us, right?
It's important to keep each other honest, like without consuming ourselves. To be like, yo, like you can talk a lot of smack about what that guy's doing wrong, but if you're not living that lifestyle of Christ,
this is what the left gets right. Wielding power, you win.
Yep.
The conservatives, the right, don't.
That's what I think. I feel like the Romans, when they set up Catholicism, they made it so that it
Romans
kept.
did not set up Catholicism.
That's not how it goes.
You don't think so? It wasn't at the Council of Nicaea 70 years after Christ's death.
No. So the Council of Nicaea was a bit after that, and this was not set up. Like, yes, there was Roman involvement, but this is not something the Romans ran. This was the early Christians basically making a number of statements about their beliefs, because at the time of Christ, there were just a lot of grifters who were coming in and making up things that had nothing to do with Christ's teaching. So then the church had to sort this out and go like, okay, what is the actual official canon going to be? What's going to be in the Bible? Like, how are we going to declare our faith, that type of thing. But it was not the Romans who set it up.
What concerns me is the authority of the time that was setting it up made it seem that like weakness is key. Like in order to be a Christian, you have to be weak. You have to be subservient. to the authority. And like, no, man, power does control the world. That's what you're saying, Tim. Like the left has understood this, that power leads, and we need that in Christianity.
Well, because so Christians had been persecuted for a good while before the Council of Nicaea, right? Because this is in
Council
the
of Nicaea was
300s.
325.
Yeah, this is in the 300s. So this is not like it is after
I think
Christ's death, but
there
more
were
than
multiple
70.
councils.
Well,
No, the one that
But we'll have an educational
Yeah,
religious
yeah.
debate on a different show.
Yeah.
totally.
I guess my point is just that the Romans did not set up Catholicism. But continue with the point that you were making overall.
That power controls everything.
Yeah,
the
and
left is unafraid, and their ethos and their moral framework is there is no truth but power. And the right is like, let's all just be good stewards of
Yeah, because
our
Jesus
community.
was like, all right, if you want to kill me, go ahead. And then they killed him. And it's like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do to
It's
survive
not
on
an
Earth.
come on,
accurate
dude.
summarization.
Well, he was like,
At all.
they came and got him, and he just was like, no, don't stop
How
them. Let them take
how
me.
about you stop shifting the conversation into arguments about
I'm telling
religion
you why
and-
power is what control.
Yeah,
Like,
but you keep shifting it into a way that you know is going to intentionally insult Christians. And then-
no. But I
that's
think
what you're-
the
bro,
reason
they-
why the right doesn't understand the value of power is because Christianity has been sold to us as if being a
that's
serf
okay is wrong.
is wrong.
No. What you're saying is not correct. Both Seamus and Serge
I mean,
both said, like,
if
hey,
you
this is
don't-
not correct. And so I said, let's have an educational conversation on religion somewhere else and get back to the conversation about the moral framework of the left. Let's move on from
Yeah,
talking
Mao
about-
figured it out. Power is what controls society out of the barrel of a gun, I think Mao said. And unless these religious folk start to understand that, I'm afraid that they will always be coming in second.
Well, I think that truth is more important than power, and that's the message here. Truth is far more important than power. It's better to have the truth on your side than to have power on your side.
But who controls the truth is who owns the media.
No, the people, there's a reason we call them liars. Instead of saying, well, the media said it, so it's true.
Yeah, but if you don't know they're lying, then you think it's truth, and then you define it as truth.
You can think something is true, but be wrong about that.
This is the point with the left. The true believers don't care if they're correct. They say 2 + 2 = 5. They've entertained that prospect because when you come out and agree with them, they know they own you. If it's the Star Trek, how many lights are there? You're mistaken. There are 5 lights, right? They come to you and say, "What's 2 + 2?" You say 4. They say, "No, you're wrong. It's 5." Now say it again. What's 2 + 2?
They want to force you to say the lie. I've
Yep.
been saying this for years. They
Yep.
want to force you to say
Exactly.
the lie. I refuse to say the lie, regardless of the topic, whether it's how many genders, whatever it is. They just say it, Seth. Just agree.
And people who would rather die than go along with the lie are the biggest threat to the establishment possible, which is why they end up being executed in tyrannical regimes.
Let's jump to this story. This is a big one. From TMZ, Target Pride controversy, bomb threat from angry LGBTQ ally deemed a hoax. So this involves us, and it happened on Friday. I get a text message asking me if it was true, and sure enough, there's an email. The email says that Target is full of swear word cowards who turned their back on the LGBT community and decided to cater to the homophobic right-wing redneck bigots, blah, 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 blah. It then says they're going to target a bunch of locations. The email is listed as being sent to members at timcast.com. We never received this email. Cleveland 19 News published it. We never received that email. So I don't know where they got it from. I wonder if someone sent them a screenshot and they, like morons, just publish it.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you about because you were talking about this over the weekend and you said that you got a similar email but not the same one. So I'm curious, why would they make something similar and not show the actual one? How could they have gotten access to it?
No idea. They could have spoofed our email, sent an email to Cleveland 19, but spoofed it so that it appeared like it was sent to us and not them, but they receive it. But that just goes to show how stupid these people are by publishing an email that wasn't sent to them, but was sent to a different address.
Yeah.
Unless the email was sent to them as fake, or Cleveland 19 actually staged the hoax themselves.
My guess is that somebody made a...
I mean, hey, that's big news. Then that forces us, one of the biggest shows on live streaming on YouTube, to talk about it.
Well, the great thing is if you're a liberal and something supports your perspective, you can say, oh, hey, here's a screenshot of an email. I promise it's really, really true, and send it to the media and they'll publish it.
That's nuts.
It's wild.
Assume it's
Yeah,
fake
this is
before you do anything.
is the article from Cleveland 19 News. They say Cleveland 19 News receives bomb threat against 5 targets as store faces LGBTQ controversy. But for some reason, they published an email that supposedly was sent to us, which we never received.
So what, like, just photoshopped? Someone photoshopped on the email address?
I'd like to know what made this news organization think it was good journalism to publish an email that wasn't sent to them without confirming with us if we received it when we didn't.
That's a very fair point.
They were just like, hey, someone claims Tim Pool's company received its email. Run it in full.
Wait, so do you know who reached out to them? What did they claim? Like a source from Tim
idea.
Pool's? They just published it.
No one from here communicated with them, and we did not receive that email. I got a text from someone else saying, is this email real? I saw it and I said, what is this? We immediately checked. This email does not exist. We've never gotten it. No idea what this is. So what happens? Did someone email? Like, how is it that Cleveland 19 received an email? And by the way, I know we're getting into the weeds, but several stores were evacuated over this.
So this was part of that.
They immediately
evacuation.
call the police for several evacuations. I mean, I don't know.
You know what happens
Do we have a lawsuit against them for publishing this?
You know what happens in the future now? The person that's just kind of read the news a little bit every now and then on a few websites sees this and says,
Yeah.
oh, that Timcast, that it's fringe group of people that was encouraging this awful, bomb scare at a Target. And that's what's forever in their head.
I think if they don't retract
No, it looks like we are the ones who reported it. It looks like we received it and alerted the news and law enforcement.
Well, I guess, you have to make a lot of assumptions to get there, I guess, with them.
The only
putting that
assumption
out
you can
there,
make here is that we received this and forwarded it to the press and law enforcement, or to law enforcement who gave it to the press, or something like that. The email came from, it alleged, the image says to members at timcast.com. We never got this. The email does not exist. I don't know what this is or how they got it. So it looks fake, and they ran it. The assumption from any regular person is going to be that we are the ones who received it first and passed it on.
Mm-hmm. That is very strange.
It's very strange. It's very, very weird.
Is this from the perspective of the person who received the email, or from the person that sent it, looking at a draft, or sent
received? It's a complete email that says from and to. So I'm curious, why didn't this company reach out to us? I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe they tried and nobody answered them. It was Memorial Day weekend. Maybe that was the point. Mm-hmm. Why would they run this story without confirming with us first how they received an email that was sent to us but went to them instead?
Yeah.
Unless someone sent them a picture of an email saying, hey, look at this thing. It wasn't us. That email doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's hard to even figure out what their angle would be for doing something like this.
I don't know.
It's weird.
At first, I tweeted that I thought it was a hoax intended to smear the left. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of putting our name on it was to force us to talk about it on the show, which they've successfully done. Now, I think, honestly, it's a possibility, but the simple solution is just the left uses violence and threats to gain political power. By maximizing PR reach, they make sure everybody knows they will come after them. That's it.
Interesting.
There's no reason to smear the left by faking something like this with a false flag, because the left literally goes out and firebombs buildings.
So to be clear, you're saying you do think that this is a hoax, this particular story?
I'm saying that I believe the email was actually sent by a leftist.
Okay.
Intending to threaten these establishments. Not that they actually, it's a bomb threat hoax because they didn't plant any bombs. Mm-hmm. But the real purpose was psychological terror from someone who was likely on the left trying to threaten people and say, these are the things that they do.
Has Target issued any kind of statement about this?
Not that I'm aware.
Yeah, I know that it was being claimed, I mentioned earlier, that people who are boycotting Target are extremists, and haven't heard too much from the left about this.
No. What a mess this email is. Any reporter that had done even a moment of thinking, I would think, would be like, this email was written to someone at a Target, because it's talking about your targets, doing this to your targets, except the two email addresses.
We are sending you a message. See, that's the other thing about it. It was sent to members allegedly sent to members at timcast.com saying they were sending us a message threatening us.
And then look below the addresses. We will continue to, the email says.
Well, we'll just.
Your targets. What are they talking about? Like, they're sending it to a Target administrator. If they're saying your targets, they're talking about, but it's the email address is not a Target email address.
So pretty much some leftist drank too much Bud Light one night, wrote this email, sent it off, and it got reported as real.
No, it's more sophisticated than that.
I know.
Because they would have had to have spoofed our email and then dropped the email. So they would have had to have used some kind of spoofing so that it went to Cleveland 19, but used our email address instead, which is not a simple feat. It's not the most complicated feat, but the average person's not gonna be able to do it. You're not some random leftist slamming a Bud Light and then doing this.
I think you
You're some hacker or someone with a general knowledge on how to spoof email addresses.
or BCC, because I think the BCC, the blind
We
carbon
did not
copy.
receive the email, meaning it never went to us, which means it was a spoof.
So it could have been.
Unless Cleveland 19 themselves made the fake email intentionally to get news for
Or
themselves.
well, also, we just have a screenshot here, right?
Yep.
It's extremely easy to just inspect element in your browser, type in a fake email address under from, so they wouldn't even have to be able to spoof an email address, right? Like anyone can do that.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody who worked at Cleveland 19 fabricated the email.
It kind of looks like
telling you, man,
Look at
the age of
quality it.
deepfakes, they want
Right, the
people want
quality's
you on
really
the
low.
defensive.
The
It's crazy.
this is what they published. The quality's super low.
You can see like the little outlines inside those. That's like what Seamus is saying. It could be done very easily, just within the browser. Just inspect, edit the text, and then it looks so bad. You can just tell it doesn't look like it's. Yeah, I don't know. Seems fake.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea who faked it or why. Like I said, it's a very strange thing. I'm trying to figure out the motivation, but
I mean, I think Tim's right. I think they're just trying to make it seem that like we will come after you. We will make this a thing. And again, they like literally Tim was saying a second ago. Might is right to them. They believe that the power is everything. So having the power to then show we will use this power is everything.
Also,
Here's the
sowing
other thing.
confusion, man.
Here's the
value
other
of
thing.
confusion.
I tweeted that this
True.
email's not real on I think the 27th, and they've not done anything. Like
CBS
You
19
mean
or
Cleveland?
who's the name of
yeah,
this?
and other people were like sharing the
Cleveland
link, being like, "Yo, Tim Pool's like they don't have this email. It's not a real email, and they don't care." That's why I'm like, I think maybe they did it,
Right. Yeah. Adds credence.
or maybe there's a leftist who works there who fabricated the email, put our name on it to generate a bunch of attention, knowing that it'll spark controversy.
yeah.
Yeah. Could be it too.
There you go. I don't know, man. But they ended up evacuating a bunch of different Target shops
In
over
Utah,
it.
though,
All those Ohio stores that they were listed on there?
No, these are Utah.
which is
Yeah.
very far away, which is really odd.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, how far away is that Ohio place? That's like we're a
very
couple
far.
hours away.
Ohio's
Yeah.
about 5.5 hour drive from here.
Yeah, but
those
whoa.
those locations.
Oh, those locations.
Yeah, the
specific-
Kent. That's like where I
Yeah,
went to
that's pretty
college.
far
Is
away.
Kent State.
Yeah, it's pretty far away.
Yeah,
Stowe,
Utah.
Ohio.
Utah is even further. It's like at least
Right.
22 hours drive. So
So the emails that we got were different. Kind of like the idea was similar, and it listed the name of other prominent culture war individuals. And so I'm like the email thread was sent to various people, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. But I think it's a spoof. It's not real.
yeah,
There's some degree of sophistication. The question is, who did it? Was it a leftist actually targeting these stores? That's Occam's razor suggests.
Was it AI?
But then here's the question, right? Because you mentioned you did get an email that was similar, but not the same as this one. So how could the news network have spoofed it if they had no idea that you got a similar email? Like that's what's weird about it to me, is you did get a similar email.
They're the ones who did it. I don't know.
Oh, they're the ones who sent you the initial email, but then why not just show the actual email?
I have no idea.
Muddling. They're muddling. People
Yeah.
have muddled the conversation. Rather than building another beer brand, we're talking about what confused us yesterday. And that's
Fair point, dude.
That's a war
I like
tactic. You want people turning in circles.
Someone in chat said Jesse Smollett did it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just hard shift into World War III now, and we'll talk about this. We have this story from NBC News. This is kind of crazy. Drone strikes hit Moscow in first attack on Russian capital's residential areas since Ukraine war began. Once again, no one knows exactly who's responsible. Russia, of course, says it's the Kiev regime attacking civilian targets, while the West says that it's a Russian false flag intended to bolster public support for war in Russia. Here's why I think that's less likely. The attack was on a wealthy area of Moscow. If you attack poor people, you generate support for war. If you attack rich people, the rich people come after rich people in the establishment elite, say like, hey, stop this. Our wealth is being destroyed because of it. It's also possible the idea is to attack the rich people because the rich people will then be like, we want war now. But the rich people were always part of the regime, the political establishment in Russia. So they're typically in line already.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if the elite are going to pull off some kind of false flag, it would make much more sense for them to go after people who are lower status and don't have as much power to fight back against them.
World War III?
drink.
I don't know.
I think that what our entire media needs to do is speak about this as aggressively as possible without considering the consequences.
What do you mean?
No, I'm being facetious because that's what they've been doing, right? We were talking about this earlier when Lindsey Graham, like a year and a half ago, got on the BBC and literally called for Putin's assassination. I mean, people will come after figures in new media for saying something slightly offensive and say, well, these content creators just aren't responsible enough. I mean, an American politician was on television calling for the assassination of the leader of a nation which is armed with nuclear weapons. And that was just allowed to happen.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's...
I mean, we've the media and political class's rhetoric surrounding this has been insanely irresponsible.
Yeah, thank you. Responsible. It's important to be responsible, even right now, us talking about this, because there's a lot of people listening, and this is like sensitive. You know, I don't think it's a false flag. What?
Then a dozen or so drones attacked civilians.
Drone warfare.
Yep.
21st century warfare. We see the tip of the spear right now.
Attacked civilians. I think it makes sense that Kiev did this more so than Russia false flagged it.
Or some could even been some
If-
independent.
If Russia was going to do it, right, trying to fan the flames of war between all factions.
Yeah.
But I feel like if Russia was going to do a false flag, they wouldn't target their elites, and it would be more sophisticated than a few drones that failed to do any real damage.
Yeah.
The real issue, I think, is that Kiev wants to send terror to the civilians and destabilize public opinion.
Definitely. I think that's what it is. It's also like kind of a tit for tat thing because they've been shelling different parts of like Ukraine as well, including the attack on Kiev.
I don't think it's tit for tat. I think it's more so you want to force the enemy to retreat, to start. You
okay.
put them on defense instead of offense.
Right.
But if this is legitimate attack, or whether or not, even if it's not, I think we're now moving very seriously close towards a nuclear war. Because Vladimir Putin said he would use nukes if there was an existential threat to Russia. And now Russian civilians are being attacked.
And the
He's
United
not
States
going
has
to
done
lose-
nothing to promote diplomacy.
He's not going to lose that war.
Right.
He has nukes. And he's not the kind of guy that's like, well, I would win, but I just don't want to use my nukes. Like, it's not how it works.
Dude, when the USSR fell, what the United States promised is that we would not expand NATO an inch eastward. And all we have done is expand NATO eastward in that entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying what Putin has done is by any means good, but what I am saying is our failure to behave diplomatically on the global stage bears some responsibility for what's happening here, right? You can't just put this all on crazy, bad Russian man.
Dude.
The United States had a duty to behave responsibly on the foreign stage, and we consistently have not.
I remember watching like maybe like almost 10 years ago. I think we might have been like a Vice piece. I don't remember what it was, but I was watching years and years ago. It was Putin speaking, saying like the West is aggressing. The West has all these new positions out of Russia now, and that's only born to be true now that he's actually in the situation that we are in the situation. It's just, yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird that we are finally here years and years since then. So
Do you think this is like holdover of fear of like the Soviet Union? Like no, I'm not blaming Hillary, like whoever, but like people from that generation are like they're actually afraid of the Soviet Union communism.
In Ukraine, many people are.
yeah.
Well, I
say
think that
here.
with this, I mean, Russia has, in the 20th century, faced up to this point, 3 serious existential crises. In the United States and Germany has been involved with all of them. And so NATO, which is basically the United States and Germany, starts inching closer and closer towards Russia's borders. I mean,
who's the
there was
aggressor?
no sensitivity on our part in saying, okay, even if our intentions are good, let's pretend that they were, and we can guarantee that our intentions were good. Maybe we need to be very careful and sensitive about how we go about this so that a hot war between Russia and Ukraine doesn't begin. But no, we did what we did. We mercilessly ridiculed and insulted Russia throughout the entirety of Trump's presidency because the media wanted to scapegoat somebody for Trump's election, and they couldn't just directly hate on the American people because that would be bad for their optics.
Yeah, I think if anything, that might have been born of people that were born in like the era of the Cold War. They wanted to blame Russia, and make Russia seem as if they were still the Soviet Union, when in reality, it's far from the case. You know.
Well, and remember back in 2012 when Mitt Romney, of course it was Mitt Romney, said that Russia was going to be one of the primary existential threats to the United States in coming years, and everyone laughed at him, and now everyone's
that was part of
agreeing
it.
with him. We should have kept laughing at him.
Right.
And I know people are saying, how could you argue that when Russia's in a hot war with Ukraine right now? Part of the reason Russia is in a hot war with Ukraine right now is because the United States has been reckless. And there's this idea of speaking softly and carrying a big stick. What the United States has done is we've spoken very loudly about a lot of these things, and we've spoken very inappropriately about them. What was interesting about Donald Trump is, even though to some extent he kept the peace, didn't start any new wars, Putin didn't invade while Trump was president. He waited until there was a man with dementia in the Oval Office before he decided to invade. When Trump was in office, there's a good argument to be made that in some sense he was very heavy-handed with Putin in terms of the threats he made to him, at least according to what Trump has said. What happened was Trump knew that in order to guarantee the peace, even though diplomacy was necessary, there were moments where harshness was also necessary.
The big red button had to work.
And there is something about that. And there is something about the fact that Biden and the left, they either have no idea where those lines are or they just don't care. And I suspect it's the latter.
Yeah, I think so. Trump had the big stick, but he spoke loudly, but he had the big stick. Biden speaks loudly, but he's got a wet noodle.
Well, I think there's truth in that, but I also think like it depends on how we're defining speaking loudly, because even though Trump, look, he had a lot of nerve. He walked right into North Korea to meet with Kim Jong-un. This is a guy who, while he was being even somewhat brash and abrasive, was still pursuing peace. Like, even when he was loud, he was still pursuing peace. He wanted to find a diplomatic solution to these problems. He wasn't interested in just going around and bullying other countries.
Speaking of peace, do you remember the Kendall Jenner ad, the Pepsi ad?
Yes,
where
she fixed the BLM rights.
Pepsi
So
can,
good.
goes over to the rioters,
so funny.
everyone's happy and love. I think all this Russia talk, what we really need is we need Donald Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. And Trump needs to deliver an ultra-right can.
Is that your next commercial?
I think so. I think we just developed that on air. Trump
my
delivered
gosh.
the ultra-right beer can, and
you,
there'll be peace.
Have you noticed that it's really hard to find people to work?
Yes, I have.
And I think this is the result of so people have said that a lot of people retired. It's like we had the racetrack over here, Charlestown Races, and they used to have a restaurant. We asked them, how come there's no restaurant at the horse track anymore? They say, we can't find anybody to work. Everybody retired. They say, we can't open any more poker tables. We got no dealers. Where'd the dealers go? They retired. Where are the people who are working? They say, nobody's working anymore. The younger generation won't work.
100%.
Imagine what it's going to be like in this country in 20 years.
It's going to be bad.
My kids are going to rule the roost because they will work.
A bunch of leftists who won't work are going to show up with pitchforks and steal other stuff.
Yeah, there's that too.
Usually you end up conscripting people. If you have a society of uneducated or unemployed, what just leads you to desperation, which means you conscript them into the military to do some crazy, aggressive, conquering war to get the resources that you weren't producing.
These kids today are not doing any conquering of anything, to be clear. The ones that are not working.
It's part of what's
And it depends, right? Because when there's a shortage of people, you can't afford war in quite the same way. You look at what's happening in China. I think that's far more concerning. They had a policy of aborting young baby girls and also engaging in open infanticide. And so now the men have a lopsided ratio. There are more men there by women by a non-insignificant margin. So what do we have? We have a bunch of young men who there are no women for. What do we do with them? You know, the United States talks a lot, and our politicians talk a lot about the quote-unquote like incel problem. They have an entire population of people for whom there literally are no women available. And everyone knows that unmarried young men as a demographic are dangerous.
Yeah, 'cause it causes
so
wars.
maybe you cook up a war to go send them to fight in, to cull that herd. Maybe you tell them, if you invade this other country, you can have the women there.
Yeah, it's so wild to think.
No, I'm serious.
It's
I'm
true.
serious.
That's
Don't
what
think
the
that that's not a
Vikings- the
rational.
Vikings would
That's
do
what
that.
human beings want. I mean, history did not end, despite what the Marxists or neoconservatives would
That's
have you
true.
believe.
I think
true.
people think it's impossible.
All right, this is dumb. There are these young people that are not working are not going to go fight wars.
I'm not talking about
and
here. I'm
win
talking about
women.
China. Yeah, I'm talking about
any
China.
of those places. That's not happening. That's not how
I don't know,
it
man.
works.
I think China's a serious threat.
Okay, we can talk about the China thing. It's an economic threat, and they're winning that threat. That's a whole nother thing. They don't want to. China doesn't want to attack us because we're their cash register. So that's a whole nother scenario. But I think the problem, back to the young people that don't work, there's a lot of problems there. But
and that's also in China too. Like
I think
they have tongue ping in China, which is just lying flat, which is meaning like people just don't work. They just don't they literally don't work. They just stay home.
There's
Yeah, well, they got
also a
plenty of
massive
people.
problem of not only people not working, but again, so I was talking about China's demographic, the
Yeah,
fact
you're
they
right.
have a large male population, which is a frightening thing,
You're right,
but
totally.
also the fact that here, the massive problem we're facing, and I think one that most developed nations are going to be facing between the next 20 and 40 years, is exactly this. We didn't populate at adequate
replacement rate.
enough numbers
Yeah, right.
for there to be a legitimate and well-functioning workforce and economy in the future. I mean, my goodness, what is it? Social Security right now, it's something like 4 people working for every 1 retiree. I think the ratio is even worse than that at this point.
It's not just that. It's just
not just Social Security, but my point is that's
It's not-
indicative of a
it's-
much broader problem.
It's not just lack of reproduction, which is a big factor, though. It's that Gen Z and millennials typically don't work.
Yeah,
They don't want to work. They don't want to do jobs. They don't have jobs.
Yeah.
They don't want. Look, man, we've been trying to build this new facility for so long, and it's insane
Yes.
how hard it is to find people to do any amount of
To
work.
actually
Oh, no,
go
and by the way,
into it.
these
Yeah.
incels and all these guys that aren't getting girls and all this kind of bullshit that we hear about all the time is if these guys like got off their ass and maybe went to the gym and stopped eating crap all the time and actually looked, there's tons of women out there that would love a decent presenting guy that's just not a total dumbass sitting around playing video games all the time. So that is a very solvable problem, but it's not for lack of, or it is for, for a lack of trying and many other things you could get into.
And knowing, a lot of people don't realize the value of being healthy when it comes to selecting.
I
a
agree
mate.
with that because I've been lied to by the government for decades now about health.
Like
And
the-
that's-
People think that if they can laugh and joke their way to getting a mate, it's just not. You got to be. I mean, you might be able to if you're the funniest guy on earth, but like if you're not physically fit, man, good luck.
yeah.
You got to take care of your body. Present. You got to be a protector, and you need to have good genes. And those genes can deteriorate over time if you feed them crap.
Very quickly.
Yeah, true.
It's time to have kids. You got kids.
I do. I have
You
two
are
great kids.
You are the conservative dad.
That is true. I got TM. We're trademarking it. But yeah, I do have 2 great kids, and they will work when they're older.
If I have kids
Yeah,
now,
work
I
now.
mean, it's. Oh, sorry.
they're going to be the age of my friends' grandkids.
Oh my gosh.
Like the kids, friends that I went to high school with and stuff. They all have kids. One of his kids 22. Like my kids will be his grandson's age. It's so wild.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, that's what you're saying, Shannon.
Yeah, no. I mean, just to kind of jump onto this point, it's a both and, right? It's a massive issue because you're correct that a lot of young people don't want to work. That's also compounded by the fact that there are just fewer young people. We're not making replacement. Things are really going to. I mean,
But the
things are
young
going to fall
people we
apart in
have
ways.
are still not working.
That
and
makes it
don't wanna
worse.
work.
No, but
I
that's my point. That makes
understand,
it
like, we
worse.
got a smaller pool, but we have a problem with the young people we have.
Right.
Yes.
So we're getting rid of all the jobs young people typically worked, like fast food restaurants. We're now using robots. You see those robots that make the cheeseburgers?
Yeah.
Now you're gone. You go to McDonald's is a vending machine at this
You
point.
strike, you're gone.
But here's the issue though. We need plumbers. We need
Yeah.
carpenters. We need specialists. Mechanics.
Yeah, it's huge.
Nope. I need somebody who knows how to do concrete. Can we find them? Nope.
Yep.
We're going on 2 years trying to build this building and get everything set up. A job that normally would be done in like 6 weeks. And we're going through different crews. It's insane. And of course, everybody says the same thing, like, oh, we will do it. And then they show up and say, we can't find anybody.
Yep. Yeah, man. I remember when that pipeline was hacked about 2 years ago, and nobody there knew how to work the manual system because all the people who could use it retired out. I mean,
Wow.
that's just the entire economy right now.
I think unemployment has something to do with it because right now you're incentivized to not work. If you're collecting unemployment, you're getting $1,000 a week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. If you get a job, you lose that $1,000 every 2 weeks. So if you're going to make $900 every 2 weeks at your job, you're actually making less working 80 hours than you are sitting on your ass. That needs to be inverted. You need to, firstly, this is why I like UBI, because you don't lose it when you get a job. You shouldn't lose your unemployment when you get a job.
Wow, we just took a wild turn. Did you say UBI?
That's part of what I like about UBI in regard, like as a swap out for unemployment, because you don't lose your UBI when you get a job. In fact, maybe you shouldn't get unemployment unless you have a
UBI
job.
would just instantly destroy the system overnight.
Yeah, it's not effective.
You need to make the Joe Rogan transition on the UBI thing. Like,
he's against it now?
Yes, he was original for it. He said that watching the COVID handouts completely changed his opinion. He's like, I'm no longer for it.
The UBI stuff won't work.
Yeah, well, he's now listening. He literally, 100%. He was serious. Went into a whole thing about it. He's like, the COVID, after seeing how the handouts and how people responded to that, he realized it will not work. People will not work if you give them money to sit at home.
The UBI is
it's already
completely
happening,
insane.
but yeah.
Well, but there is this bizarre sort of Rousseauian appeal to man's better nature that even if he's getting money to do nothing, he's still going to go do something. It's like, okay, well, maybe he does do something and it's stupid and we don't need it and it doesn't benefit anybody.
Here's what I say to my friends. Here, I'll ask you, Seth. How many people do you know play guitar?
That play the guitar, I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe a handful at most.
You only know a handful?
I mean, I probably know a lot that I don't even realize I play guitar.
Well, Chambers, you know a lot of people who play guitar?
I know a couple people who play guitar, probably.
How many people out of them do you think they would want to make a living playing guitar?
I know one that tried very hard.
Are they good enough to make a living playing guitar?
He did okay.
See, I always ask this to my lefty friends. How many people you know play the guitar? And they'll, I don't know, a bunch. And I'll be like, do they want to make a living doing it? And they're like, well, yeah, like they want to be rock stars. Are they good enough? And they go, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so if you gave them UBI, guess what they would do instead of working?
Yep.
They would just go and play the guitar. And they're not very good at it.
Yeah, 100%. That sums up everything right there.
Maybe you could
that's
do
perfect.
unemployment that you don't lose it when you get a job. At least
Well,
not
that's
for the
what they
first
have
year.
right now with all this COVID stuff. That they still could go work jobs and still be getting the COVID money. They could have more or less double dipped, and a lot of them just refused to go work.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
They could have doubled. They could be doing it now.
This is-
There's
this-
still
this is-
state. I think Michael Malice did someone on the show about all of this. It was pretty interesting. I may have the wrong person.
This is the issue. Work does not exist. Work is not a thing. The idea of work is nonsense, and we need to stop saying it. When I wake up and I quote unquote work, I'm not at work.
Yeah.
Like I come in here, I read the news, and then I get feelings I want to talk about. I read the things and I want to do it. I do the stuff that I want to do.
Yeah.
These people don't want to do anything at all.
Right.
So to them, anything they don't want to do is work.
Yes.
The problem is they are blank slates. It used to be that when you were a kid, you'd watch your parents do their thing, you'd learn from them. You know, we were driving in the car recently with some friends, and someone mentioned they used to have a dream and they wake up at school. You know, like, I have a dream where I'm in school naked or something, and then we always hear people say like, I have these weird dreams where it's like I forgot to turn in a test, but I'm like 35, man. Like what? I'm not in school anymore. And I said it's because human beings are not supposed to spend half their life in an institutionalized learning facility and then overnight switch to something totally different. So what happens is all of your developmental years are in this machine. So now 20 years later, you have a nightmare about forgetting a test because your body and mind have been trained and conditioned to do that.
100%.
If we grew up on farms, you'd be 15, you'd have a nightmare you forgot to get the eggs from the chicken coop.
Yeah.
Then when you're 35, you wake up and go, I forgot the eggs. Oh, I didn't forget the eggs. It wouldn't be out of place because your life stays the same. The issue now is, I said this 20 years ago to a friend of mine. She told me she didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. She was like 20-something. She was close to finishing college. And I was like, what were you doing when you were 13? And she was like, hanging out with my friends. I don't know, riding bikes. And I said, you want to open a bar? And she went, oh my God, that would be amazing. And I'm like, yeah, when you were a kid, your whole day was hanging out with your friends, shooting the shit, talking about stuff. You want to open a bar because then you can hang out all day, hang out with your friends, shooting the shit.
Yeah.
Right. The kids who grew up to be pro baseball players, they were playing baseball when they were 5 years old.
Exactly.
They're 13 years old, they're playing baseball.
Yeah.
They're 40 years old, they're playing baseball. It's not work. Now here's the thing. I still say I have to work, like because I have a schedule and because I have responsibilities. But doing this, all the stuff we do, it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry guys, I've got an 8 to 11. Yeah. You know.
Well, for sure, people have got to you've got to channel it into work. Your work needs to be, if you want to do it well and be successful at it, it needs to be something that you love. That doesn't mean you're not going to have mundane aspects of it, you know, and that we all understand. But overall, in general, you've got to feel like that what you're doing is accomplishing something, whether it's fixing someone's car and you're wanting to see someone, you know, roll out with a working vehicle, or you want to see someone walking home with food that magically ends up in the grocery store, those kinds of things. You got to have some incentive behind it, and you got to have some, you know, actual motivation and love for what you're doing.
I think
That's
the
hard to
issue
find.
is we institutionalized all of our children. We took away child labor. Child labor is a very, very good thing. We just don't want kids in factories and in coal mines.
Right.
We want them at coffee shops and paper routes.
Exactly.
Children doing work is a good thing.
And beer factories. That's it. We'll
None of
limit
those
it at
factors. None of that. But a paper route was work.
Yep.
Working at the family grocery store was work.
Yeah.
Working on the farm was work.
Walking the
Right.
dog.
Walking the dogs.
My
walk my
6-year-old
neighbor's dog.
legit asked me, I guess it was last week or the week before, he said, Dad, I want to do a lemonade stand this summer. And if you know me, you kind of know I love hearing my 6-year-old say that. I'm also thinking, where the hell are we going to do a lemonade stand? I was like, where are we going to do this? Well, he names, downtown, it's an area near where we live. Well, I was like, well, that's pretty good. There's a lot of people there. And he said, yeah, I'm going to sell lemonade and ultra right beer. I was like,
my God.
we might have some legal issues on this.
She's a
but,
distributor, man. You know?
yeah,
Your
You're set
ambition,
up.
son.
yeah, he's ready.
So did he fire off the lemonade stand, or is that coming up?
Well, this was like a week or two ago. So they just got out of school last week.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
we'll figure out something.
Good deals. Set up a good deal. Maybe cheap refills.
Yeah, I could see that.
Why don't you launch a lemonade company and you
Oh,
can have your
God.
kid run it?
I like the idea. My kids do work for me, and I pay them when they work for me. I am a bit busy with beer for a lemonade company, and I think I'm
Yeah,
starting.
but you have your kid do it.
There's a lot to sourcing this much product of anything, as
Shipping
you well know.
liquid. I don't know how you pull that off.
A lot. So it's the whole product. Just getting cans right now, aluminum cans that are not made by the devil. I mean, Anheuser-Busch is difficult, and finding people to work to put sleeves on the cans. By the way, the company this is a perfect example. The company that put the sleeves on our can. One of the biggest issues we had, we got all the sleeves printed, everything ready to go. I don't have staff to do it. And that's something we ran into. And we kind of run into that same issue along the way at a lot of places throughout this. But yeah, it's a lot of work. A lot of money. Dane.
We got coffee, and we want to do cold brew because I love cold brew. That's my jam, right? And so we've reached out to our suppliers, our distributors, our companies, and it would cost us. We would have to sell the can of cold brew per can $5 per cold brew.
What kind of overhead is that?
That basically makes us
rather,
maybe
that's
like
margins.
no profit.
You're not. Yeah. Are you? Is it what are you being told is the major cost in that?
Shipping liquid.
Well, no, but okay, but is that because? No, you should talk to me about this later. Is it so? They're saying that it's $5 per can, like because the coffee itself, like you got very minimal ingredients there, obviously.
So
And your
all
cans,
is
how
said.
bulk are you looking at?
We like so we're not going to be putting in millions of dollars to order big warehouses full.
You wouldn't have to, but like if you did a tractor trailer loads where you really get your main discount when it comes to like aluminum cans and
So we're all online, and we want to do online sales, and we did all of the sourcing and everything, and it would come out to like breaking even at $5 a can. So it's just we're avoiding it for now.
Yeah,
We'll talk about
I think,
it later.
Yeah,
I
I
suppose.
think you actually can find out that you could do this cheaper, and because but dealing with coffee, you have so many more options than we are with alcohol. So UPS is some will ship within certain. More or less, you can if I summed it up, you could say UPS is really the only one that will ship alcohol. But you can ship your coffee with USPS, as much as they suck a lot of the times. But nonetheless, you can ship your coffee with that. So you can have a lot cheaper options of getting your liquid to people.
Pipeline.
And
We'll
every
talk about
six-pack's about
A
only
coffee
about 4.5
pipeline.
Build a
ounces.
pipeline.
Straight. All right,
to the shop.
We're going to go to
Biden
super
will shut
chats.
it down. He loves shutting pipelines down, Tim. This is not the right time.
We're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Become a member at timcast.com because we're going to have a members-only show coming up for you just after this one, so around 10 or so p.m. on the front page of timcast.com. You don't want to miss it. All right. Goldilocks Production says, hey, Tim, heads up. But Nebraska recently passed school choice and a pro-life bill. The state keeps getting more red. Very interesting. Grofty, of course, says Buck. Very nice.
Thanks, Crofty.
Waffle Sensei says, Tim, can we talk about Dylan Mulvaney coming out as straight? That was an old video. Yeah. And Dylan Mulvaney was saying that trans women are women, not that Dylan Mulvaney is attracted to females.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why he said, no, she will get me pregnant because he's...
I see.
First of all, it's a Borat-like bit because he can't get pregnant. But he was saying that that he's talking about trans women. And so I went to my dad and said, I'm attracted to women. And my dad said, wow. And then I said, haha, I'm talking about trans women. And that's the gag. All right. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, it's unofficially official, my dude. The Bud Light effect is now in the Urban Dictionary for all to reference. Companies need to fear the Bud Light effect. Well, all right. GD says, hashtag believe all women. Oof.
Oh,
We didn't
yeah.
get to that. We'll talk about that, I suppose, in the members only. The Tara Reid fleeing to Russia.
Excellent.
Gets a little adult. Brandon Smith says, got my Appalachian Nights order today. Excited to try it. By the way, Southern West Virginia, better than the Panhandle. We were hanging out in Charleston,
What a
West
great
Virginia.
weekend that was.
Yeah, that was amazing. We went to, we drove like an hour and a half into the mountains to get ice cream.
And you guys walked up a hill, like, I don't know, what was
We
that?
climbed a mountain.
1,000 feet up the mountain?
I don't know, about 1,000.
500 feet up the mountain?
Maybe 500 feet.
You were becoming
Wow, that's
tiny
crazy.
specks in the distance as I was
It was actually kind of scary. It was super steep and it had just rained and we're really dumb. So we got out of our cars in the middle of nowhere in a mountain where like the only people were on ATVs and motorbike, like dirt bikes. And then we climbed up this super steep, like,
It was very steep.
Is it rock?
partly
like
dirt,
mud
yeah,
and
partly
rock.
gravel and that
Couple
green
rocks fell down.
mesh.
So in Georgia, we have a place called Stone Mountain. It's the world's largest single piece of granite that you could climb. It's like an actual mountain. And every year, a few people do what you just did, and they
Oh, geez.
right down.
Well, this
And
was
does not
just-
work out well.
It was just mud and grass for the most part. And so
yeah, it was
like
like a beaten trail kind
sliding
of.
down a little bit was fun. The only thing bad about it was that it had just rained. It had rained like several hours earlier, so it was wet. But you know, it wasn't where we weren't mountain climbing. We weren't like clinging to rocks.
yeah, it
we were
was-
walking up a hill.
Well, that's the way. That's the way some
Insanely
mountains.
steep.
They close it when it rains for that reason. So just saying, you could have been
Like
in
people
great
slipping in the
shape.
grass or something.
They slip and then off the edge.
But there's no edge.
Oh, you don't have an. Okay, I see. what
No,
you're
no,
saying.
it was a big hill. And so
Okay.
we just went out, walked up and walked
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Like you get to the top and you're just it was flat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was cool though. We just climb up that for no reason.
More like hills.
Noah Sanders says, Tim, I'd love to open a cast brew franchise that doubles as a comedy club at night. Do you think there's any way to secure a liquor license with the franchise? We can sell Seth's beer during stand-up.
Love it.
I mean, let's do it. Let's figure out how to do it. We're still working on the first location, and it's taking forever.
Is there any
It's insane how long it takes to do anything.
is there any process for people to start setting up franchises yet?
We can't until we have everything set up, and we have. I mean,
Okay.
it's bonkers.
I got an email about it, so we'll be sending at some point. I'm sure like franchise.
Dude, nobody's working. I'm sorry. It's just that's just it. There's nobody working. And I've been saying over and over again, every other week when I get angrier and angrier because we're now 2 years on from this new location not being done because nobody is working. And I'm like, do we have to drive to Home Depot and just offer people jobs? Like, tell me what to do. Tell me how, ask them. Nobody. It's the most insane thing. I'll be like, bro, how much money you want? Like, I don't want to work.
It's wild.
I'm like, holy crap, dude.
I spent the day on the phone trying to get something done that required some manual labor and knowledge mechanic wise. And I mean, my girlfriend can tell you, I was just in the car nonstop calling place after place. And we don't have anybody that can do it. We just don't have the manpower. I mean, we literally heard that, not exaggerating, probably 30 times. Just don't have the manpower. No one knows how to do that anymore. Don't have the manpower.
How are people living?
I don't know, man.
That's crazy.
I just don't get it.
with their parents
Yep.
on unemployment.
And not wanting to work. They just refuse to do any work. They're nihilistic, lazy, angry. I'm not saying all at once. I'm saying to varying degrees.
Yeah,
One
that's
person's nihilistic, one person's lazy, one person's angry, one person's ego is too big. This work is beneath me. It's like,
Yeah,
dude,
exactly.
like I will pay you whatever you want to do this job. Just please come and do it. I would do it myself, but I'm doing this job. And they're like, no, it's beneath me. I'm like, okay.
Well, not
So
much can be beneath you when you're buried
you know
in
what
debt,
I've said?
man.
We're getting really close to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to tweet the address and tell people to show up.
Well,
Hey, that might work, actually.
Yep.
It
Like,
legit
here's the
might
address.
work.
Show up. We want this done.
We'll provide the tools.
We've got a bunch of cashier's checks ready to go. Just slipping them out. We'll sign your name to it right now.
At the end of the day, don't
Right.
give those out
Of
early.
course.
yeah, I mean, this is one of the massive problems. There are a number of problems with this, but this is one of the massive problems with the government deciding to get involved in the economy, pick winners and
Yes,
losers, and
totally.
say the wave of the future is going to be people being employed based on having a 4 to 6 year college degree. So now we're going to
100%.
subsidize these loans. Not only has it trained people and pushed people into fields where there isn't as much demand as it was once speculated there would be, not only has it increased the cost of loans, but it takes people out of the workplace for 4 to 6 years as well.
Yes, totally.
It's just the weirdest thing to me that people wouldn't mind running around killing boars for 3 hours and then going to the quartermaster for a new quest to go kill griffins. And then they're like, after killing 1,000 of them, I've gotten enough gold to buy the forest leather boots of agility. And I'm like, bro, get a job. Like, I don't understand how that... Like,
Oh, yeah, dude.
You don't feel that same way when you finally acquire your new Legend of Zelda? Like, I've gone to my quest master, my boss, and said what tasks need be done. And then he says, you must deliver 16 bags of French fries. And you're like, I will do it. And you run around handing out French fries. And then he gives you your quest reward. And people are not.
Do you know what they have to do? They have to put VR headsets on people that are actually just goggles like South Park and tell them it's a video game. Like, yeah, this is McDonald's
You
quest.
could, yeah, you could monetize.
I hate all of this. I just want to be clear. I was very angry at the rental car I had doesn't have a stick shift. Like I was like, it's gone too far. So I was telling my girlfriend, she's like, you're not going to do well.
I've experienced this phenomenon where people in video games will play for 100 hours to get the items they want in the game. 100 hours of their time. But where at the same time it costs about $500 worth of money to get the thing. They spend 100 hours. If you work for 100 hours, you're gonna have way more than $500. You can buy the stuff.
Not
you
after
don't have to spend the
taxes.
$100. But the idea that you don't have to pay, you don't have to play to win. You can pay to win, and you can get a job that pays more than the amount. Like time is money.
Have you noticed
that.
how many casinos are popping up?
That's terrifying.
Gambling in general.
So let me tell you right now. Near us, we have Charlestown. If we drive 1 hour, just 1 hour east, there are 3. You've got, so there's Charlestown, which is right here. Then you've got Horseshoe in Baltimore, Maryland Live, Baltimore, MGM Grand, DC. If you drive an hour and a half north, you've got Hollywood Harrisburg, Hollywood York. If you drive about 2 hours west, you have Rocky Gap. If you, I'm sorry, no, that's about an hour and a half, Rocky Gap. If you drive 2 hours, you've got Lady Luck, I think it's called. If you drive 2.5 hours, if you drive 1 more hour past Baltimore, you've got the Delaware racetracks. So that's 9. And I feel like I'm probably forgetting one. You also have Pittsburgh, which is 2.5 hours from here, which has
Where are they getting the
Pittsburgh
money
Live.
to spend to gamble?
3 hours from here is Atlantic City and Philadelphia Live and Rivers. So within a few hours driving, let's just say 3 hours is our cap, you've probably got 15 casinos. The craziest thing is MGM Grand. And well, I mean, honestly, and Horseshoe. The question always arises, everyone I talk to, they say, I don't know where these people have money.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Bro, this is what's freaking me out. Because I hang out at the poker tables, right? Poker's $300 to buy in. And you can play for all day and leave with $300. People think poker is like you go in there, you're like, I bet it all, and you lose right. That's not, the game is very slow. You get your cards for free. So down at a poker table, before the big blind comes, they deal you cards. You get to play the game. You don't got to spend any money. You can pay $2 at the low stakes games just for fun to hang out. But I go out to the floor at MGM, one hand of, say, like 4-card poker. It's a table game, $250. I'm like, where does anybody have this money?
We're losing a middle class is what's happening.
Yeah.
And
Is that
you've
what it
got, I think you've got people, well, I mean, there's, you've got people that have a lot of money and you've got, again, that gap is widening.
Yeah,
And so the people with a lot of money blowing $250 or whatever it is not
I was
a
at the
lot.
grocery store and we spent about $180 on all these groceries. And I sat down, and as I was getting into the car, the thought came into my mind, it's good to be rich. I just thought it. And I was like, how many people, because I just went in, swiped a piece of plastic and got all this food. I was like, wow, how many people just live like that? They're like, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and suck off the system because I happen to be one of the rich ones and not mention. Like, where are they? Intentionally silent. They're intentionally camouflaging this. All these crypto wealthy people that made millions in the last 10 years, all this new currency, because we have 35 trillion in American dollar debt, all this crypto trillions
out of nowhere.
Also, out of 0 to trillions. So that's another form of inflation. They're just silent. They don't want to get taxed on it. They don't want the government to know they have it. They're,
Yeah, that's a big one.
I think that before we get to the metaverse era, where people detach from reality, we'll be in the casino era. When people don't need, like, here's what will happen. If UBI becomes a thing, I guarantee you people will just spend all day at the casino.
Yeah.
They'll be like, I need $200 for my food. Casino time!
Right.
Because they got nothing else to do.
And the money's coming back anyways. It doesn't matter if they have to work. They know the money's guaranteed.
You'll notice in some casinos, there's a lot of retirees.
Yeah.
And the trope of the customer is a guy who retired who gets several $100 per week or his a certain portion of his budget. He just goes to the casino.
The money's coming.
And people often say, I was reading a meme about poker and I was like, God bless the old man who shows up and loses his money every week. And then someone responded, I don't think you understand. This old man just wants to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
So you're getting their pension money. But that's what people are going to turn into. When they no longer have to work, when food is abundant, when everything's automated, they're going to go gamble.
That is depressing. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying it's depressing.
It is insane how many casinos there are just everywhere popping up. It's like if you live north of DC, you're within 45 minutes of 3 major casinos.
Not only that,
That's
look
crazy.
at online gambling too. Online gambling has been exploding. So
Yeah, that's also true. It's massive right now.
Yeah.
And there's really weird online gambling too, where it's like, have you seen the Plinko one?
yeah. That's Plinko is like the Japanese. Is that right?
It's
The Plinko.
it's a pyramid shaped pegs, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
bet money. The money falls down,
I'm thinking of
and if it
Pachinko.
hits the far sides, it multiplies the money by huge numbers.
Right,
it lands
right,
in the
right.
middle. It's like times 1 or times half. People are playing weird gambling games online. They have nothing to do. But my question is like, where do any of these people get money from? Like, I just don't.
I don't know, man.
Don't get
Yeah.
it, dude. I do not understand this. I go to the casino and I'll bet the craps table. And there's a guy with 10 grand sitting there. I'm like, what does he do? Like, that's crazy to me. And some people always say like, oh well, maybe it's just credit or they shouldn't be gambling the money. And then I'm like, if that were true, I would not also be asking, where are the people who are like, where are the workers? Are they all just homeless? None of these people want jobs? No, I don't know, man.
Who knows?
All right, let's read some more. Gabriel Lopez says, sorry to inform, they won't go broke. Corporations don't need customers in our fiat system. They have a good CEI score, and BlackRock Fed will give them infinite free money with 0 interest, and they will weather the storm. They can only go broke if they don't go woke.
So you probably meant DEI score. You said CEI score.
Oh, yeah,
but
DEI. He said CEI.
That's part of it. Where are they getting the money? Well, it's fiat.
Here's a good
Print
one.
10 times what you have.
Drew Outstanding in Field says, in honor of the fallen, I'm matching all super chats about Memorial Day up to $1,000 on this episode, giving to a veteran org that supports children of service members who made the ultimate sacrifice. Retired Army Sergeant. All gave some gave all. It's the least I can do. Wow. That's really amazing, dude. I really do appreciate that. So I think to clarify what you're saying is, for people who make Memorial Day super chats here, you will donate to a charity supporting the children of veterans.
You're legit, Drew.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Kid Truck says, hey, did you guys hear about the bus driver who got fired from Charlotte Area Transit System when a passenger pulled a gun on him and he defended himself? They fired him because they have a no weapons policy.
Oh my
Guess
God.
they think you should just get shot. Well, there was the guy in the parking garage who got shot twice, wrestled the gun away from the guy, and then shot in self-defense. And then they were like, you're under arrest.
These people need to be in
Got to
jail.
get these dangerous
Solzhenitsyn.
people off the streets, Tim.
Where was that? Was that a New York thing?
I think that was a New York thing.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What?
These
That was-
prosecutors
that's-
should be in jail. They
that's-
should absolutely be in jail. With
100%.
incredibly
Look, man,
harsh sentences.
When
But-
you've got Christians on TV, like, denouncing their faith,
Yeah.
I don't think...
Oh, I know they're not going to
cities-
jail. I just said they should be.
Well, to be
Right.
fair, denouncing your faith is one of the requirements to being a Christian on TV.
Yeah, there you go. What do we got? Crooked Smile says, I remember a campaign in another country with the Burger King mascot sharing a passionate kiss with Ronald McDonald. It was ridiculous.
Wait,
What's- Oh, the Burger King guy?
Wait a minute. Are you talking about the Hamburglar?
No, that's
Oh,
McDonald's.
the King. Yeah, I know what
King.
you're
Yeah, the
talking
king. Yeah.
about. The
King.
Burger King.
The Burger King. That was a really dumb idea. Let's make our mascot a king who runs around.
Dude, he's horrifying.
He is.
He's
terrifying.
legitimately terrifying.
It's also quite horrifying about the Mayor McCheese's head is made of dead cow meat.
That's terrifying.
His head is a
He's like a
cheese.
bizarre Frankenstein's monster, man.
Oh, the King.
Joel Drawson says, Tim is wrong about Chick-fil-A. He is BSing to stay in the argument. It's a safer place to take your kids, and it is slammed with moms Monday through Friday. I did not say it was not safe. I did not say that it wasn't slammed with moms. So what am I wrong
Stop
about?
BSing to stay in the conversation.
Are you saying I'm wrong
on
about
your own show?
my experience in the drive-thru being overloaded? Dude, there's no argument. The drive-thru at Chick-fil-A is always full. Whether or not you're okay with it and you've had a good experience is different from my experience. My experience with Taco Bell is I'm in and out. My experience with Chick-fil-A is it's a huge line and we wait a long time.
Do you think
But that's an issue of their popularity.
Do you think it's possible that a company just having a DEI department isn't necessarily a bad thing?
No, it is.
Yeah,
No,
it
it's
is.
terrible.
'Cause
It would
they're
be-
never going to use that for good.
No.
It would be like if they opened, like if imagine if Taco Bell said announcing the chief Chinese Communist Party officer. There's no difference. None. You'd be like, what?
Yeah, if it remembers Korea when they found out that their prime minister had an involvement with, I think it was Prime Minister Moon had involvement with some kind of cult. This is like 2020, I think. Korea freaked out. They had thousands of people in the streets. I don't think anyone remembers that, but that was because of the fact that like this, and it's the difference, the prime minister, but they had this person installed that was not part of the Korean government. It wasn't part of like anything like that. It's an ulterior motive in your government, and it's similar to that, you know? Yeah.
That's interesting. First I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Let's grab some more super chats. Stinky Fingertip says that baseball player is a Toronto, Canada. I don't know their hate speech laws, but he may have been facing fines or even jail time, not just his salary. Oh, man. Wow. You know, humans are so disappointing sometimes. I kind of just have this, it's my fault, really. It's my fault growing up in America at a time when we thought highly of our founding fathers for being strong, moral figures who believed in individual responsibility, personal liberties. It's my fault for believing those things should be inherent in people, because in fact it was a fluke. This country is a rarity, is it an oddity that people would defy the established order to take command and take control. You know what I think it is? You had this big city, you had this big country, you had London, you had these European cities, and people were like, I don't want to live this way. Isn't it really funny? Religious persecution. So they said, we're going to leave. I would rather risk dying over the oceans.
Yep.
I would rather land on barren shores than live with these people. Mm-hmm. And they did. And then those people had kids and taught those kids, and those people had kids and taught those kids. And then you had a small country where they were basically all thinking the same thing. Get the F away from me. Mm-hmm. So they severed ties. Now, after hundreds of years later, we have been demoralized and broken down into lazy, vapid individuals. And here's what I wonder. Is it just going to take another American colonial movement? Do a bunch of people just say, I'm moving to El Salvador?
I think what you just described is a great quote. Y'all have probably talked about it on the show before, but it's hard times create strong men. You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. I think we're literally witnessing that.
You know, Peter,
but it's also spiraling downward.
Yeah, Peter Attia was said that it's only recently that things have begun to fall apart, and it has a lot to do with the food pyramid, this business plan that the American government was involved in creating and pushing on people, this propaganda to make them think that that's what they're supposed to be eating, empty carbs, like
It's
total destruction.
It's criminal. The entire food pyramid, everything the government puts. Like I've lost my mind many times reading government guidelines, quote unquote, about food and health. It's literally, generally, you could just do the opposite of everything they're telling you. This, I mean, they got the man in the dress,
healthy.
like telling you how to eat and how to be healthy, and he's also overweight.
Clearly very healthy guy, right?
He's also overweight,
Psychologically
and they're telling you this is what you need to do to get healthy. I'm like, I'll do the opposite. It's working great.
I wonder if the answer is doing what the founding fathers and our ancestors did and straight up get on a boat and go build your own place.
Well,
Where do you go?
we'll talk about some of the ways in
El
which
Salvador.
Reagan was overrated, but one thing he said, which is dead on, is there's nowhere else to go.
El Salvador.
El Salvador? We're going to go build El Salvador?
I think there will be a
El
human
Salvador's
revolution on
lit.
Mars when we start populating another planet, which, you know, maybe it seems fantastical now, but it will happen. And when it does, there will be a revolution on that planet, and they will take control of their government the way that Americans did.
Bro,
when
The
they landed.
Expanse.
Is that what that's about?
Basically, in the show, you've got Mars was a colony, but it was heavily militaristic because of the way you had to live to survive. And then they basically break off and form their own country or whatever.
Ironically, that's like, and maybe people don't know about this, but like, that's in Gundam too. The same thing happens. Mars Alliance is basically very militaristic because of how hard life was, and then they would attack Earth in their story.
It
But
makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
If we were going to have a colony on Mars, it would require like intense discipline,
Right.
obedience, and governmental support. So you would have a full military function
Definitely.
to everything. Yeah, they would not tolerate BS, especially if they need those resources.
No way.
Could be that we colonize the ocean, that we build islands and colonize the ocean.
Oh, that's interesting.
Did you ever see, oh my gosh, years ago, there was this plan for a massive floating tax shelter island that people would finance to go live on.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was an incredible pipe dream.
OMG Puppy says Santa Claus was at the Council of Nicaea.
Oh my gosh,
and he
Saint
punched
Nick.
one of the
punched
other
a
bishops.
heretic. He punched an Aryan heretic. That's right. So just know he is checking that list twice. All right.
So did he steal
And
his
heretics
sled
go
from
on
the
the
Romans?
naughty list.
He punched one of the other bishops. Wow, Santa Claus sounds based.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, he
Yes,
seems like a
Saint
good.
Nick
I mean,
was
he's
best.
going around giving presents away.
Yeah,
know?
hit
Nice guy.
Arius. Just clocked him. That's a legend. And we hope,
He's got a mean right hook.
Let's grab some more super chats. Where are we at? Sparky says, newsflash, Russia is no longer communist. Interesting.
Yeah, really.
Whoa, didn't know that.
All right, we get a couple more in here. Seth Klein says, recently unemployed and looking for work. Not sure if I could help with anything. We are very close to me just tweeting out I'm not even kidding. Like, I've already said several times, if we don't get someone, I'm literally just going to tweet the address and then we'll set up like a job fair. Okay, like, here's what we're looking for. Here's the address. See ya. Here's the time.
The toughest thing is, though, a lot of these things require some level of skill.
That's what I'm saying. Like, someone's got to show up who knows concrete, so we can get the concrete done. Someone's got to show up who knows wiring, so get the wiring done. But every time we hire a new company, the same thing happens. They're like, we can't find people.
Yep.
Nobody wants to work.
Wow.
Add to that the fact that the homeless crisis and the illegal immigration crisis, and we're done.
Yeah.
There's an unprecedented extraction happening on this country right now.
But have you considered that hurts my feelings and you're mean?
Maybe we need more mean tweets.
Yeah.
Maybe the mean tweets were the thing that actually made it work.
They were fun.
Yeah.
Let's see where we're at. Guitar Maker says, I was blessed enough, talented enough, and lucky enough to have made my living playing guitar. Now I'm retired from the stage and make guitars as a hobby.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
Nice, man.
Kurt Ansem says, since McDonald's is going fully automated, could you do the same? Just program a less beta version of Ian. You spend
I don't
more
think you
time.
can get less beta than me.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
So
Was there more to that?
they said we spend more time shutting down the pseudo hippie than he brings up I don't know. You spend
you
more
need
time shutting
I
the
actually
pseudo
like your
down
hippie
than he
side,
brings
just
up
to be
valid
clear.
points.
Thanks.
I bought something called I bought some all natural hippie deodorant that's made of like carnauba wax and like fragrance and stuff. And one of the scents was dragon's blood. And I opened it up and it smells like your bedroom.
I have questions.
Bring it over.
No, it's like the incense that he burns. Or
Okay,
not
okay,
Champa.
Gotcha.
I wasn't talking about his dirty laundry.
I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't sure what this meant. I was
Or
like,
were you?
I don't want to
It's
know.
like whatever that weird hippie garbage he's always burning or
It's
something.
the incense. That's what
Okay, that's fair.
It's patchouli or
It's
something.
my fine fragrance.
The thing about dragon's blood is it keeps dragons away. It
Oh, there
scares them.
is an
The smell.
incense.
They can't stand it. Yeah.
It's called. There's an incense called Dragon's Blood.
That's
I haven't
right.
burned that.
That's probably
one.
what it is.
Yeah,
I haven't burned that one before. It's
Well.
Nag Champa.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and become a member at timcast.com because we're going to have a members-only, uncensored show coming up for you where we talk about Joe Biden's accuser fleeing to Russia, so you don't want to miss it. That'll be on the front page of timcast.com in just a few minutes. You can follow the show at Timcast. At Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. Seth, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, you can support what we're doing at ultrarightbeer.com. Appreciate everyone that's done so far.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out.
You guys can check what we're doing out at Freedom Tunes. We are actually going to be releasing 3 videos this week. We just released one today. For those of you who missed the Debunkers, we're going to be releasing an episode of that cartoon tomorrow and then another surprise cartoon on Thursday. I hope you all go over there and check it out.
Ian Crossland here, Seth Weathers at Seth Weathers on Twitter. Thanks for the beer, man. Ultra
Yeah.
right, dude. It's delicious. I'm still sipping on it right now. And for the record, Nag Champa is an Indian fragrance made with a combination of sandalwood and either champak or frangipani. Haven't heard either of those, so maybe that's what you're smelling.
I don't know.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm really glad to meet you in real life, Seth. It's a pleasure.
Same.
Yeah, and for everyone else, I am Serge.com. You can argue with me on Twitter. I actually talk to Seth on Twitter a lot. Yeah, funnily enough. Yeah, this has been fun. I'll see you guys in the after, hopefully.
All right, everybody. We'll see you all over at timcast.com in a couple minutes. Thanks for hanging out.